It can't rain all the time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon, and joining me, my host companion, is Sejohn Sarowick. How you doing, Sejohn?
Doing okay. Hey, everybody.
I almost called you one of the other names of the crow. I guess this is stupid, what I'm doing right now, but whatever. It's our show. We get to do whatever we want with our show, right? Especially since we don't have sponsorships or ads or anyone to answer to except for each other. This is going to feel like a weird episode for Sejohn and
scared. I'm so scared. What is happening?
Because, Sejohn, this is the first time we've done an episode in like 3 episodes that's not about the crow. Because we took last week and we did 2 episodes on the crow. We'll let you find out what those are actually about. Some people who are friends, who I have already told that they're about, don't spoil it for the rest of the team. But this is our first non-crow episode in a long time. And Sejohn, I'm sitting in the chair and I'm like scratching like an addict because all I want to do is talk about the crow. but as they say in that famous Hangman's Joke song, it can't rain all the time. So we're not going to talk about the crow this week outside of the 2 references. There might be more crow talk. But I'm so happy to be sitting here and recording the Say Report. I've had a very full morning of Mario Party, Super Mario Party Jamboree, which I did pick up on release date. And then the next day I went to Target and was able to be like, hey, nobody told me that I could get these party tins. Do you have any left? And I got 2 party tins for my 2 purchases. Also, because I've been celebrating Target Circle Week, I got Super Mario Party Jamboree for $15. And I didn't really have to do anything crazy to save that money. Like, just my normal shopping at Target earned me enough money to get this $60 game for 75% off.
That's right. That's right. I mean, so talk to me about some Mario Party, Dev. I mean, like this is a pretty big game release.
This is a release that when they revealed it, I'm like, I'm not getting Super Mario Party Jamboree. That was where I was at. I will be completely honest with the assembled masses. And that's because the original Super Mario Party, while I had a very good time with it, I remember the Friday that it came out, I went over to a friend's house in Connecticut. He listens to the show. Hey, Lance. I went over to his house, and we beat that game to death. Like, I don't know if you've played Super Mario Party, the first Mario Party that came out on the Switch, Sejohn, but do you remember the, like, rowing mini game where you're all in the boat?
Yeah, there's like a 4-player mode where you can all be in a boat together and control a boat and then just play mini games as you go down Yeah.
It has 8 different paths that you can go down. We cleared like all 8 paths that night.
Yeah,
like,
and it tracks which paths you've taken, right? Yeah. And so it encourages you to go back in and try again and do. But like weirdly, it's a pyramid like path, right?
Yeah.
So for a lot of those paths, you're just doing the same thing for the majority of it. It's just at the last second you just decide to go left or right.
It is.
And there's not like a huge like reveal of something wild and different for doing it either. It was a very weirdly built game. Super Mario Party is just this is the first Mario Party on the Switch. Like it's hard to keep track of it because of the naming convention, but Super Mario Party was the first Switch.
It was the first Switch Mario Party. And
it had some weird choices in it.
And the weirdest choice of all was Joy-Con only. I don't get it. I still don't get Joy-Con only.
Oh, because it was an early game on the Switch. That's how Nintendo does this. They make that game that forces you to interact with the system in that way that they intend. And for the majority, it works really well. You know, they did the same thing with like Snipper Clippers, I'm thinking too, right?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I remember that. I mean, it came out October of 2018, so about 18 months into the Switch's life cycle, or a year and a half if you're nasty. So yeah, like it was one of those ones where like, look what we can do with the Joy-Con. And it's not like my favorite Mario Party, and this is because it's the only Mario Party I owned for most of my life, was Mario Party 8. But with Mario Party 8, it was on the Wii, And the Wiimote was such a big deal. So, like, it was the first kind of Mario Party that had motion controls. I just jerked off a Wiimote. I didn't have to tell anybody that, but, like, whenever I talk about Mario Party 8, I think about that soda shaking game. And it's like my muscle memory kicks in.
Yeah, well, and so like really interestingly, like what Nintendo did with the Switch was that there was that initial push at first to be like, hey, the Joy-Cons, they do these things, right? They detach, they move in these ways, they have the gyroscope, like all of the stuff that they wanted you to do. And over the years, as people have kind of really just like lost like any interest in that kind of control, Nintendo has gladly moved away from it. Like I have to say that it's actually really impressive. I'm thinking of like 2 or 3 different games, Nintendo games that I've played recently where like they had Joy-Con options but completely optional stuff. And I got to say that like I wouldn't have believed that they would have been that willing to just kind of move away from the gimmick once people kind of lost interest in it. So I think that there's definitely some games you can point to in the beginning of the Switch that are super gimmicky, like Super Mario Party, in forcing you to use the Joy-Cons and things like that. But it's not like Nintendo stuck to that directive its entire lifespan.
Yeah, like Skyward Sword, the fact that they remapped it all to the Pro Controller so you could play with a Pro Controller or the 2 Joy-Cons for
they very easily could have with that one just been like, no, it's Joy-Con only because that was the whole bit of the first one was the Wiimote, right?
Yeah.
But
and they could have, and not only could they have very easily done that, like, what are you going to do? Get mad? You have Joy-Cons. If you bought a Switch, it came with Joy-Cons. Don't get mad at us that we're forcing you to play it this way. So, like, that's a good one to point to. And the other one is Super Mario Odyssey, though, admittedly, you know what? Problem 1 is the fact that you can't buy the 3D Mario All-Stars game anymore. That was so fucking stupid. I don't understand the thought process behind that. I know it was probably to drive NSO expansion pass sales, but it just feels so anti-consumer, right? Especially as Nintendo currently, though, did you hear about what happened with Nintendo and all of the YouTube strikes and everything? The reveal
I didn't hear about
this
YouTube
week?
strikes. No, what happened there?
A bunch of them were fake. A bunch of them were people pretending to be Nintendo, putting like copyright strikes on YouTube videos. There's a beautiful gallery of like Doug Bowser spelling his name incorrectly, or like a Nintendo of America, so AMMERICA. Like stuff that like
and
if
YouTube's
it was
algorithm just ate that shit up, huh?
Right, exactly. That's the scarier thing about it.
We're gonna talk about some YouTube later this episode, but
I don't doubt
man,
it.
fuck that.
But like that. So I mean, there has been a huge like strike from Nintendo being like, we want to shut down emulation. Ryujinx went the same path as Yuzu in terms of Switch emulation. So like Nintendo is doing what Nintendo do. But it doesn't change the fact that additionally, people were looking at the evidence as it was released and like, so this is wrong. This is a fake copyright strike. Who is doing this on behalf of Nintendo? And the grosser thought that comes to my mind is it could still be Nintendo pushing and testing the limits of that YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, more likely it's assholes, right? Because one of the big problems that YouTube still has to this day is the ways people treat, like creators treat other creators, right? And doing that kind of shit. Just because we're here, we'll talk about this for a second. But one of the other big things going on with YouTube right now, as far as like the strike stuff goes, is there's been a ton of stuff going on with KSI, the artist that works alongside Logan Paul, most famously. He also is a boxer, as along with Logan Paul. I think the two of them run that like boxing league that they started. And on top of that was also a lead in creating Prime, right? And then but then last but not least, also has a aspiring music career. I will say.
Do you mean Prime?
And so
the
all of
energy
that
drink?
all came together in a big.
Like Prime has
What's up?
become. When you say creating Prime, you mean the energy drink, the whole hyper hydration drink?
I assumed when I said Logan Paul, working with
just,
Logan Paul and on the Prime energy drink that they created together, Prime, that is supposedly sweeping the nation, although every display I've ever seen of it is still full. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I only bring that up because the Prime is one of those terms that is like lost all meaning. Sort of like plus, right? Everything's a plus now, like, so nothing is a plus.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
or back in the 90s everything was extreme. Yeah.
Extreme.
But yeah, he has been having a real problem lately because people representing him supposedly have been going out and copyright striking all sorts of other YouTube artists who are YouTube creators who are doing reaction videos or using his music and this stuff. And there's a really big feeling of like you're one of us. Like, why would you allow your staff if you? Because his big excuse is that he's not the one that does that. He's got people that handle that kind of thing, and so people are just like, okay, but can you tell them to ease the fuck off? Because a lot of the stuff that people are pointing to as problematic are videos where like people are actually enjoying it. Like, and right now he's in the middle of a bit of a PR snafu with some of the stuff going on with Prime Energy and some stuff going on with like Mr. Beast and them trying to sell Prime Energy in like Lunchable packets, like it's and claiming it's like healthy for kids or healthier for kids at least. Um, which is fucking nonsense.
The South Park Prime episode was not episode special, where they like looked at Prime as how it's like this is just sugar water.
Yeah,
but like
it's worse than Gatorade in a lot of ways. There's like they were touting that it was better than Gatorade in a lot of ways when they first came out, but what wasn't talked about was that they were selling in 16-ounce bottles, whereas Gatorade normally comes in a 20-ounce. So the numbers they were comparing were completely off. So they were like, yeah, we have 300 grams less of sugar in our bottle. And it's like, yeah, but your bottle is also 4 ounces smaller, you jackass. So like there's just a lot of stuff going on there, right? So it's been controversy from day one with this shit, and KSI is in the middle of all of this. But yeah, the people representing him, and then there's been a lot of stuff of him talking about how he's like, it's not me, it's not me. It's first it was my staff, now it's like I don't know who's doing it, but like anybody can do that, and there's people out there who are then copyright striking each other, and it's like snowballed into this huge fucking mess, right? And it's really revealed a lot of the problems with the copyright strike method. So like back to the Nintendo stuff, yeah, we could be like really like tinfoil hat about like Nintendo trying to see what they could get away with. But the more likely story is it's just what's going on everywhere else in YouTube. Is kids pretending to be, maybe not even kids, but grown kids, jackasses who act like children, pretending to be these people and putting copyright strikes on creators they don't like, possibly competition if they feel that. Because one of the other big things with the KSI stuff was that like he was going after people that have famously kind of eaten his lunch in some fields like music and things like that. Like he felt like he was kind of getting knocked down by some certain people, but even those people would be like, yeah, this is a pretty decent track, and then the video would disappear, and it's just like, fuck off, man. like I tried to extend an olive branch, and this is the way that you treat me. All right, fine. Yeah, YouTube is having a real problem right now in this regard.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading that other places. So yeah, but okay, so Nintendo, that's their whole thing. I'm sorry about. I got distracted by the YouTuber. Like back to Super Mario Party Jamboree and really Super Mario Party. So my issue with that first game was the Joy-Con of it all. And then I had the opportunity. This is a Devon Decker reason that I don't have Super Mario Party. I had the opportunity to buy the copy of it that came with 2 Joy-Cons. And it was just the regular price as the game. I was at a Walmart in Massachusetts. I saw it and I'm like, oh, it's just the game and 2 Joy-Cons, but it's just the price of the regular game, right? Like, yep. I should buy this. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't really like it. Who am I going to play it with? I'm going to pass. And then, like, the next time I saw that, it was priced correctly, which was $30. So basically, you were buying the game and Joy-Cons. You weren't, like, really saving any money. They just were charging you for both things in the package. And I'm like, well, no, I'm probably never going to buy that game. So that's Super Mario Party. I was a little bummed that it was Joy-Con only. Especially the Pro Controller can do almost all the gyroscope things that the regular controller can
you mentioned Odyssey earlier, and I never played that with a Joy-Con. I did that entire game with a Pro Controller because, yes, you can do a ton of the same stuff. There's a couple of moves that you can't do because you can't, like, move things in opposite directions. But beyond that, you can do anything with that Pro Controller.
Yeah.
I was going to say, though, like, I think there's a lot more criticism to be laid against Super Mario Party. Like, that first Switch one was such a disappointment. And not only was it Joy-Con only, but it was small. It felt really small. They really leaned on that multiplayer game that we talked about. That was really lame. There wasn't much in it that felt... Like, I sat down and played a game of it and felt like I had gotten everything out of it in one game. And I still own it, and like from time to time, people that haven't played it will ask, like, because they want to play a Mario Party game, and it's fine for that. But it's not a game that like I played to no end. Unlike like all these other Mario Party ones. I mean, you talk about Mario Party 8 on the Wii, right? Like we used to play that game all the time, or like back in the Nintendo 64.
Playing that game, like
we played the N64 one like ones like crazy. Yeah, so I don't know. I there was something about that one in particular that just really didn't grab me, and I think that a lot of people felt that way. They bought into it because it was a Mario Party game. The other big thing that we didn't really mention earlier, but the Switch was also kind of a little dry in its early years of like games to play. There was a lot of talk about like things that were like we were promised were coming, but then like they didn't come out until like 18 months after the system came out. Things like that. So like there was also just kind of this thing of like at least it's something for me to be doing with my Switch right now. It wasn't that bad. Like I'm not gonna sit here and act like there was nothing in the early days of Switch, but the 18 months to get to a Mario Party game is ridiculous. That should have been part and parcel with the release of the Switch, right? There's just there's a lot going on with that Super Mario Party, a lot more going on than just that it had weird like it had weird mechanics. It had a lot of weird shit going on with it.
Yeah. I don't know. The same way is that I played it that one time and I'm like, I got everything out of it. And like I said, we played it for like 7 hours. We even did that thing because it had that weird ability to like play games across 2 switches, but you had to be in handheld mode. We even took the time
it had to be
do
like
that.
Near each other, right? Like you couldn't even be like in a
to
separate room.
So it's I can play on this big TV or I can play on the little screen pushed together. So what, I have like 14 inches of screen real estate then? I don't see the appeal here.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so that was a choice and that was a thing. And then along came Mario Party Superstars. Superstars, which was like, they went kind of the other direction with it, where like, Joy-Cons are not necessary at all. There are no motion games in this Mario Party. It is a Mario Party greatest hits kind of game. It's boards that you already know, and it's games that can be played perfectly with the Pro Controller. And that one was fun. Like, I definitely played online with that one. That one has some longevity. I think I own 4 copies of that game, to be completely honest. Because, well, at one point, it was like $20. So, I bought a digital copy, even though I owned a physical copy at the $20. I bought another physical copy so that Dale or anyone else in the house could have one. And then I bought a copy to keep in my car in case I went to a place that had a Switch and they didn't have Mario Party.
Nice. Like, yeah. No, so Superstars I do think was a vast improvement over Super Mario Party for sure. But I think again, the big criticism I would lay against it is just not much going on. 4 boards when they're retro boards
in that one.
Five boards still. Like, it just felt like this is such a great experience. We've gone so good we've gone so much further with the mini games and the controls and the fact that it feels really good on a Pro Controller and stuff. But fuck me, just 5 boards. We played 5 games of it, and it's like, yeah, but these are boards there was no discovery to it. These were all boards we played before. It was just. It felt like it was a really cool stopgap, but it didn't feel like it was the next Mario Party.
Exactly. And I guess the other issue that I would bring up with that one, I mean, with both of those, with both Mario Parties before, the way that it felt was they're gonna give us DLC, right? Like, they'd be stupid. We are now in a post-Nintendo sells DLC for their games world, right?
Yeah.
It was a little crunchy. Like, 3DS, I think, was the first one where they really sort of leaned into it in terms of, like, New Super Mario Brothers 2, where they sold, like, level packs. I can't think of anything else there, right? And then we got, Breath of the Wild, that had, like, full-on DLC packs. And then, fucking Wii U. You had, like, the Hyrule Warriors game had full-on DLC, right? Like, we lived in a world where Nintendo, and as bad as we say Nintendo is, right? As much criticism as the Say Report has levied against Nintendo through the years, they are pretty good about the DLC and not like releasing a half-finished game so that they could sell you the rest of the game. We're going to talk about Spider-Man 2 and the information that was revealed about Spider-Man 2 this weekend at New York Comic-Con, because I feel like it's worth at least 5 minutes on the show. So, like, the other thing was that, like, well, now that Nintendo's selling DLC, they have good bones here with a Mario Party game. Both of these games were good bones of a game, right? And I was half expecting that Super Mario Party might one day get Pro Controller support, but that never happened. They never worked on it again. People were expecting, they could sell us boards for like $5, and as gross as that would be, people would pay the $5 for boards.
I mean, Super Mario Party. No, sorry, Mario Party Superstars.
Yeah.
If they had done $20 packs where you get like 2 boards and like a character or something like that, or even 1 board and 2 characters, or like some grouping of stuff, but like I would have paid 20 extra bucks to add a little bit more content to that thing eventually, and like part of that is because of the position that I'm in, and my family plays video games like as a hobby, so like it's investing in that, like some people invest in like their lawn and shit like that, so like I know not everybody feels that way, but like I know that there are people that would.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think I would have gone in for a Mario Party. I just don't play it that often. But I was excited as somebody who like played it socially.
As a man that bought 4 copies of that game, you don't think you would have sprung an extra like $15-$20 to get more content in it when it came out?
That's you bring up a really good point. I mean, I was at the time where I bought 4 copies of that game. I was in a different place. I will be completely honest about that. I was playing more Mario Party. And plus it was during COVID, right? So like that was how you interacted with people. Like that was part of it. It was like that weird like limbo between COVID 1 and COVID 2.
Yeah.
So like that. So yeah, like if they had done DLC, we were all expecting DLC and it never happened. Also, while we're talking about it, it's pretty great that Mario Maker's DLC was all free, right? But also, had they charged for DLC, I think people would have bought it. I think that...
Oh, yeah. But I think that they made more... I think they made more from people being on the game and doing things. Like the way that they handled the Mario Maker games, both of them were masterclasses, and it's something that Nintendo does not do often. And so it'll be interesting to see the next game series that they do like that. I don't know if we ever see a Mario Maker 3. Maybe, but
like at this point, I mean, for Nintendo Switch 2, it's real, right? It's not Luigi and Super Mario 64. We've seen leaks. We've seen companies talk about we're developing a version of this game for the Nintendo Switch 2. It's coming. If I were Nintendo, I would do a new Mario Maker for Switch 2. I would not do Mario Maker 2 like deluxe. I think that way they can have more in it. It can be a bit more robust. They can... Everything from 2 is there, but then they add a couple extra things for a Mario Maker 3 and have, like, tell us, and eventually down the line, there's going to be a couple of content updates, a la what we did with Super Mario Maker 2. I think that would be the better way to do it. But also, I do agree with you. I feel like we're living in a time where they are releasing Mario games fairly regularly. Like, Mario Maker was a way to, like, close the gap and cover their asses. But again, this has been like the 39th anniversary of Mario in 2023. We've seen so many Mario games release, right? Even if we start with Super Mario RPG last October, then Wonder happened. Then freaking like we've seen a lot of Mario game releases. Jamboree kind of caps off a year of, I think, 8 Mario games releasing.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
And
like
games in general, Nintendo really turned the faucet on for the last year in terms of game releases. But I think part of that is that so many of these games are or were being developed for the Switch, and we are getting to the end of its life cycle. If they want to announce a Switch 2, basically they were like, we have to get these games out the door. Not that I feel like any of them have been rushed. I have not felt that with any of them. But the number of games that we have suddenly seen in the last year and a half coming out for the Switch from Nintendo it has been such a huge dearth of games, and I think it's because they probably had these games waiting, and they were like, all right, now or never. Like, let's get them out there. Let's put them on the calendar.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is a very good observation there. And I don't think like I would have, well, maybe it would have been smart to hold like Super Mario Party Jamboree as a launch title for Switch 2. But again, if it has the backwards compatibility that they're talking about, they'll be good. All right, so this has been 24 minutes talking about the the Mario Party games on the Nintendo Switch that are not Super Mario Party Jamboree. And I know that we had like a little teaser last week. Thanks to everybody who like yelled at me about that and how now I made them want to play the game even more because of my brief time with it. Thank you. It meant a lot. I love infuriating you. But now it's time to talk about Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is awesome so far. I have had a blast. I have only played 3 games of the actual like party boards, and each one of them has been incredible. The fact that after you play your first game, you unlock the Pro Rules option, which completely changes Mario Party for the better. I love the Pro Rules. The reason we started taping this later than we usually do is because Dale and I were engaged in a Pro Rules competition, which locks the game to 12 turns. You can't go higher than that. You can't go lower than that. Locks it to 1 bonus star. And then there's a suite of other changes that happen in the game. Like, they get rid of some of the at the home stretch when there's only 5 turns left, there's no event that happens. It's just like blue spaces get 3 extra, red spaces take 3 extra, and duels will start off. But duels now in the Pro one, it can be for coins or it can be for a star if both players have stars.
Nice.
Certain other things, not item spaces, like the lucky spaces, they are locked to you choose between getting 10 coins or double dice. And then the unlucky ones, you always lose 7 coins and they go to the last place player. Nice. When it comes to mini games, it is not random. The 4 players vote on which game they want to play. And then it chooses of those 4. So it gives you like 3 options. And if each of those is picked and then one is picked twice, it roulettes, kind of like how Mario Kart determines which course. So that's cool. So you can like pick the game that if everybody's playing, right, and you all want to go just for like high coin percentages, you're all going to vote for the same thing, right? Like there is a lot more strategy that goes into it. It is a blast. Star spaces, like it marks where they show up and they reset. We had a blast playing it. I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it. And that was
this one's got 8 boards altogether when all is said and done?
It has 7 Mario Party boards, and then it has the Koopathlon and the Evil Bowser board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Imposter Bowser game, which is 8 players, and then Koopathlon is up to 20 players.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right.
And it looks like unlocking the boards is tied to your rank. So like I finally ranked up this morning after we played the pro game, and that's when I unlocked a new board. So I was fine with that. Cool. And then there's also the single player, which is the most robust single player experience for a Mario Party since Mario Party 8. Which I know that Mario Party 8 was just like play through all the boards and then you play through Bowser's board against one of the unlockable characters to unlock them. Mm-hmm. But that was like a story mode there. This one, you are assisting Comic, who is, or Magic Koopa, for those who aren't in the know, who has been charged with like throwing this Mario Party. Okay. And he's like, I need help setting up the boards. Can you help me out, guys? So like you run around the boards, and it's a really interesting way to familiarize yourself with the board layout and what the mechanics are of each board. So in one level, it's like a huge tutorial, but then the other, it's kind of like Super Mario 64 is what I'm going to compare it to, because you run around the board and you complete challenges to get mini stars, the goal being to get 30 mini stars, and once you have those 30 mini stars, you fight a boss battle. And those boss battles are actual games that can appear, but they are set up in a way where like all 4 players are kind of PvEing against like a big monster, and then depending on who does the most damage to the monster, who gets the final hit, they get like, you get points for every hit you make on it, and then whoever delivers the final blow gets a bonus amount of points, which I've only done it one time and I got 5 extra points for getting the final hit on the monster. I don't know if that's going to go up in harder ones or something like that. It's an interesting mechanic to have games that are like that in whatever way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it sounds like it's a really cool new thing that I haven't seen before in a Mario Party game. I don't know if it is reminiscent of anything in particular, but I don't recall it. That's awesome. I'm very excited to get my hands on it. I'm in that weird limbo right now where I don't want to buy myself stuff because birthday coming up, and then and so I need to wait and see if I get it for my birthday. If I don't, then it'll be like one of the first things I buy, because I'm very excited about this new Mario Party game.
Yeah, and then I don't think you'll be too far behind not playing for a week while everybody else is playing. I will tell anybody, if you're playing against me, right? And if you want to play against me, contact me, right? Or put it in the Say Report Discord. We'll figure something out. We'll make it work. I'm playing in my sports goggles, and I have a mouth guard coming because I'm going to play hard. Nice. Just being honest about it. But it is very good. It's very in-depth, and you have the option of including motion control games in it or shutting those off. And like, again, options are what we have been crowing about Nintendo should do in their games since the start of the Say Report, right? They're not baby games if you give us options to make it more difficult. And like Echoes of Wisdom, from the start, you can put it into hero mode where everything does double damage and certain items like just don't have any effect on the game. And like, I don't love that, right? I would never want to play that game that way. Oh, also, quick update on Echoes of Wisdom. When I finished it, I was only missing one Echo, and it was a Lionel. And that was fun to get. I'm not going to lie to you. But I'm at like, I would say like 99% clear. I'm missing a couple of accessories. Other than that, I've gotten everything else in the game. And not that I'm playing it now. In fact, I 100%ed 2 other games this week, which we'll talk about a little bit after the Super Mario Party Jamboree thing. But it is out there. It is awesome. And I will more than likely be playing one board of it each day now that I have it.
Cool.
So if anybody that I know is interested, if you're a listener and you're part of the Discord, or join the Discord, because I'm there, right? Because I gotta work it out before Sejohn gets it for his birthday, and then is on the prowl.
Coming for you.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed my time with it. So there's a good kickoff to this. What you said, you had some things you wanted to talk about. Is it just the YouTube stuff? Did we touch on everything there, or?
Oh, I've just been doing some Hallowatching and stuff this week, and there was actually some surprise releases that happened. Literally, stealth dropped a show on Amazon Prime that I've been waiting for years. Just if you guys are looking for some good spooky stuff to watch, the family actually. We did Hocus Pocus 2 again last night. I guess somehow somebody in the house had missed it. I don't know how. I thought we had all watched it together, but maybe I'm misremembering what we did. But you and I did like an episode, right, where we talked about Hocus Pocus 2.
We talked about having watched it. It wasn't like a full-on episode, but we definitely touched on it. I complained that like because I live in Rhode Island, I was distracted by pointing out all of the Rhode Island scenery.
Yeah, except that I was watching it again last night and I realized that like there's a lot of that movie that takes place just on like sound stages. The last 20 minutes of that
Oh
movie is
yeah.
just them in the woods, and like the woods that they are in look like it is straight up just like a set from college.
Right. It very well could be too, because it's in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean, like it was a blast though, right? Like we watched it again, and like I said, apparently we had some people in the house that had missed it the first time around. I don't know how. So like we were just kind of like I didn't have many memories of it, but we found ourselves having a good time with it. So we'll see how that
I'm
movie's
glad you
history
bring up
changes
Hocus.
over the years. Kind of like that first one. For a lot of people, that first one really felt very silly when it first came out, but then it became like one of those classics later in life. I'm curious if that's going to happen with the sequel too. But what other scary stuff have we been watching? We've been doing a ton of like specials and stuff. You know, the Simpsons Treehouse of Horrors. Um, uh, Big City Greens has a good one. The big thing that I've been finding is that in the afternoons when like we're doing like housework or cooking and things like that, we've been watching Retro Rewind, which is a channel on YouTube where I don't know if they've actually pulled VHSs or if it's like filtered to look like it's a VHS. But what they do is they basically put together a block of television that is supposedly recorded blocks from like the 90s or the 80s or or the early 2000s. So like putting on Disney's One Saturday Morning like 3 hour block, the Halloween stuff, right? The Halloween like retro rewind, and just sitting there and watching like Pepper Ann and Doug and Recess specials, but like then getting all of the cool like Halloween commercials in between, right? Like seeing all of this stuff. Do you remember like Wacky Jammers, the really weird like balls that were shaped to be like faces? Like one was like a mummy face, one was
I
like a witch
remember
face,
Mad
right?
Balls. Were there also wacky jammers?
What were they? What were you calling them?
Mad Balls.
There was also those too. No, wacky. It might not be wacky jammers. It was something jammers. I might have the wrong adjective at the beginning of it, but jammers was definitely the one. And like just a ton of like the old like Pizza Hut and um, Burger King is another big one that you see a ton of commercials for, like in various ways. Cereal, right? And do you remember like the other one that kept getting me is there's like a ton of different Pepsi commercials with Casper. Do you remember for like years after Casper came out, there was like a Casper Pepsi like ad campaign?
Well, I mean, Pepsi really was a big deal with Casper. Like they drink Pepsi in it because of the collaboration with Yum Brands and Casper. We all forget because most of us moved on after the first movie. It had a huge second life in straight to DVD. Well,
Oh yeah, no.
VHS.
The
Spirited
premiere
Beginning,
of
Casper and Wendy, and then there's a
yeah, the
fourth
premiere of
one
Hilary
too.
Duff.
Yeah,
Hilary Duff's first major role was as Wendy the Witch in Casper and Wendy. Yeah.
yeah. Which was, I mean, it's there. So like, in addition to that, oh, Casper also had that weird Fox Kids show where they did a great Field of Dreams episode.
Really?
Yeah, like Field of Screams is what it was called, and yeah, they built a baseball thing in the
Obviously.
backyard, and yeah, Casper
Wild.
became a huge. I would argue that Casper was probably more successful than Richie Rich after the movie.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think the Richie Rich movie did fine, and it's what gave them the push to try something like Casper, right? In that vein. But I think you're 100% right that Casper caught on like crazy. Um, it's just so dark and so weird. It's such a good movie. Like
Such a
Casper
good
as a film
movie.
holds up.
I mean,
But no,
it's technically the third Ghostbusters movie, right? We're gonna be total assholes
yeah, man.
about it.
But who are you gonna call? Not us.
Somebody else.
Oh my God, who's the priest? The
It's
comic that
Father
used to dress up as a
Sarducci.
priest.
I
Yeah,
don't know who plays
Guido
Father
Sarducci.
Guido Sarducci. Who played Guido Sarducci? Nope.
Oh man, what a wild pull for a kids movie.
Fictional character
but
portrayed by Don Novello.
right, yeah, right. He was like a character that this dude played. But no, the big thing that I've been watching this week was that unexpectedly, The Edge of Sleep, the televised version of a podcast that was done during COVID. So during COVID, a lot of weird shit happened where with a lot of actors and YouTubers doing a lot of stuff like podcasts and books and things like that because they couldn't leave the house. So it was really easy to do things like voice acting and that sort of stuff. There was a big upswing in a lot of dramatizations of like Batman stories. Remember, like Spotify has like a whole series of Batman
Yep.
like plays, essentially audio plays that they've put out. There's other ones of this too. What was the weird one? Fucking there was a really weird one that Matthew McConaughey did where he plays like a dog, and there's like a whole and Jesse Plemons I think is in it too and shit like that. Like
What
it's
a
like this
cast you
six
just
episode one.
I will look that up
What?
while you're talking about. That is a cast right there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so one of the big ones that came out at that time that was really fun for me was for anybody that knows my YouTube watch list, Markiplier, one of the big YouTube stars, had one called Edge of Sleep. And it's a wild fucking story. It's a somewhat Stephen Kingy horror story thing where it's all about how a virus of some kind or something hits the world and people start dying in their sleep. If you fall asleep, you die, right? And so the whole thing is about this group of people who decide that they're going to try and stay up, and if they can, figure out what's going on before they inevitably pass out and
And
in
die.
their minds die, right? So it's this wild thing, and he talks a lot in a lot of different mediums. He's got his own podcast, he's got his YouTube, he's got a couple of things where one of the big things that he really latched onto, hyper focused on for a long time, was the Russian sleep study there, where after like 32 hours, people started like seeing hallucinations and like losing their mind, and there's like a lot of stuff out there, and he cites that kind of like that as like a big like scary influence on him and his like kind of the kind of stuff that he finds horrific, right? And you could see in The Edge of Sleep where that kind of goes. It's actually written by a different couple of guys that do a lot of different podcasts, but the story is very much, I guess, inspired by some stuff that he put together, and then he is the main star in it, and then like pushes it as a producer. And eventually, it does really well, and it gets picked up to be made into a filmed version. And it's like this huge deal that like this YouTube star was able to put this thing together during COVID, and now that COVID's kind of coming winding down, they're gonna do a film version of this thing too. This was about 3 or 4 years ago that like rumors started about it, and then there was a lot of stuff that he did on his channel where he was taking time off to go film and was being very honest about like where they were in that process, and just a really interesting relationship with like an indie creator creating this TV show and not really being sure what was going to happen to it, because at that point they didn't have anywhere that it was going to release. They didn't know if they were going to ever get it in people's hands, if it was going to be a DVD, or if it was just going to, in his mind, he always talked about how there's a chance it might just go to YouTube. He didn't want that to happen because he wanted it to be something different than a YouTube project, but that was always on the table as a possibility. And then like didn't hear about it for a while, and then all of a sudden, like earlier this year, there was an announcement that it had been purchased, but it had been purchased by not a production company. It had been purchased by a production company, but not a like streaming service. So it suddenly had people behind it who were going to work on getting it out, but there was no indication of where it was going to come out, right? Well, earlier this week, I would say probably Monday, maybe Sunday of last week, Markiplier, who has been on a bit of a hiatus because he's been filming another project, he's been working on his movie Iron Lung for the last 2 years, actually like posted a video like, and it was a huge deal because he hasn't posted in like months or at least weeks, and like posted this video about like, hey, so Edge of Sleep is going to come out, and it's going to come out at like the end of the week, and I can't tell you where it's going to come out because it's part of an NDA, unfortunately, but I can say it's going to come out, I guess. And so there's like all this stuff in this like 5 minute video of him being really cagey about it, but he was like, keep an eye out, you will find it, and I will tell you when I can, but right now I can't, but just know it's going to come out on Friday. Okay, fine. Wednesday, another video goes up where he's just like, okay, so it's out today, it's on Amazon Prime, go watch it. I don't know what the hell happened, but apparently it is already up. And he was even in the video being like, I don't know why it's there, but I know it is, and you should just go watch it now. So of course a bunch of people flocked to Amazon Prime to go watch it, and like it's been hitting in the top 10. It's been in like the 4 to 6 range for a few days, but it is a fucking wild show. There's a whole other aspect to it where it is about this horror event, right, of people falling asleep and all this, but because of the hallucination aspect, there's a whole bunch of really weird visuals to it. There's some really good like music beats to it. There's just all of this stuff going on that really makes it something more unique than just like scary story, like, and there's also there's this kind of surprise element for me in watching it where I'll be entirely honest, I didn't expect it to have very high production value. I love the work that he has done on YouTube. He's done I've talked before about how he's done a series of kind of choose your own adventure style storytelling things on YouTube. Huge projects, 30, 40, 60 videos long of like, you start here and then there's all these branching possibilities and it's always like this big thing of figuring out how to get to certain endings. He gets a bunch of other YouTubers involved. You see people like the Game Grumps doing like musical episodes for those things. Matt Pat, Rosanna Penzino, just a whole bunch of people in that vein doing stuff. And like pretty heavy duty writing in a lot of that too, that he supposedly does all himself. But he's got a bunch of those that he's been doing for decades up there. And like those are very fun, but there is like kind of a little bit of a Mystery Science Theater aspect to them because it is just, it's financed by this dude who is, by all accounts, a multimillionaire. So like, it's not that it doesn't have any money, but the kind of working machinations to make these things look as professional as possible is something that he's been slowly working on.
Yeah.
But man, I don't know what I was expecting, but the visual stuff, the directing, the big thing is the acting. Like it's not, I'm not going to sit here and act like it should be winning awards or anything like that, but I was prepared to just kind of like suck it up for some stuff, but it's all really well done. I think part of it is that it's got just enough weirdness to it that some of the moments where some things are a little wooden in like the acting or a little weird in like the set design, it kind of actually fits with like the feel of the whole thing. There's a little bit of like a Charlie Kaufman-esque like what's the one he wrote? Eternal Sunshine.
Oh,
right.
Sorry.
No. Eternal Sunshine is the one I'm thinking of. Yep. There's a little bit of that kind of going on, right? With the idea of like going into dreams and like what we see when we're asleep or what it means, what it represents, and all of that sort of stuff. And so there's that kind of like level of like absurd weirdness all over it. Also just some horrific imagery, like just some really gory stuff that's just like really well done. Again, was not expecting it to look as good as it did. Like Stephen King monster style gore that like I'm thinking of like Pennywise in the sewers and stuff like that. Just seeing some like weird shit like that I can't believe how well they visualized it. So that's been like a really wild, like cool surprise thing this week. And hopefully it means that if this does really well, then maybe Amazon Prime is where he'll be able to put Iron Lung out, because I've been dying to watch that too. But that's something that we're probably not going to see for a couple of years.
I am interested to check it out because you have been. I mean, was this self-funded? It sounds like this was self-funded, right?
I would say mostly. He's on as executive producer on both the podcast and the TV show, but like there are other producers as well. Like I said, it did get picked up by a production company at some point, so there is something going on in terms of he's been able to find other funding. But from what I understand, it's pretty well like him putting himself into every aspect of it.
So based on other self-funded things and how I felt about them, I'm curious to compare. That is where I'm at with this. I mean, it's not something I'm into. In fact, speaking of the dog, it's Hank the Cow Dog is
Hank
the
the
name.
Cow Dog.
Where he is, I really just like the description. Hank the Cow Dog, the self-declared head of ranch security. Like, what the hell is happening?
Well, and what's wild is like look at the cast on that thing. It's nuts.
Incredible. It's Jesse Plemons. It's Kirsten Dunst. It is Joel Edgerton, Michael Shannon, Cynthia Erivo, Scoot McNairy, Leslie Jordan, R.I.P. Leslie Jordan. It's a heck of a cast and it's weird. Like there's 13 episodes and there's 2 years between the first season and the unknown. Like they don't even really call it a second season in how they look at it. So, but yeah, I was unaware of that. But what I was thinking of in terms of like COVID TV shows is Staged with David Tennant and Michael Sheen, where it's all just Zoom as they rehearse the show that they're going to work on. I don't remember the name of it, and I've only seen a couple of them, but that was a show that was like, this could only have been made in COVID. There was also a weird episode, I don't remember what show it was. Maybe it was Game Shakers or something. Like Nickelodeon did a COVID special of like, I'm like an iCarly guy. I'm a Victorious guy. I watched the show Warped. That's pretty much where I stand with like Nickelodeon shows, especially now that, Lifetime Achievement Award winner Dan Schneider, we know how gross he is and how manipulative and exploitative he was.
Yeah, it's one of the weird
kids.
things about doing that retro TV stuff, honestly, is like we watched a whole Snick one because I wanted to see if Pete and Pete was in there, and it was. But they also had like the Amanda Show, all that, and like, and I was just like, oh man, this is like hard to watch.
Yeah, I still haven't brought myself. I really wanted to watch Zoe 102, but that would have meant going back and watching all of Zoe 101. I've only seen like 4 episodes, but all of them were great. But first of all, they really played Jamie Lynn Spears like fucking dirty. Like, you got pregnant and now you are like banished from the kingdom. And that's so fucking weird. Poor the Spears girls. I just gotta like... So, like, her coming back for Zoe 102, the TV movie, I was into that and I wanted to watch the show, but then also a lot of the Dan Schneider stuff came out around the same time. So I haven't watched that either. I'm not happy with how the iCarly, like, reboot ended, because it ended on a huge fucking cliffhanger. I don't know if I've complained about that on the show yet.
Maybe they'll get a movie.
But I'm hoping that they get a movie to wrap it up. But, like... if it had continued as a show, I don't know if I would have kept watching it, because it's like you want to divorce the product from the creator when new creators step into it, but then there is still like, well, there's a reason why Jeanette McCurdy is not part of it, and a lot of it is because of that creator. So it's weird times. But they did, like, one of the shows did a Zoom episode, and I'm like, I'm curious, right? Because like this is directed towards kids. Like, and that was just a weird experience watching that. I mean, granted, it wasn't a show I knew, so like all the characters were strangers, but still, like that Zoom.
Well, and I think about like a lot of the stuff that ended up happening with like Try Guys and Smosh and stuff too. Like they ended up getting like TV shows, or Rhett and Link doing their whole thing with Mythical Morning and having a bunch of different projects that they've tried over the years. And like YouTube is at a point right now where there's just a bunch of creators who, and I think COVID led to this, but I think it was going to be inevitable anyway. You just have a lot of creators that have started to hit a point where they're not sure they want to keep doing what they're doing, but the problem is that they hit so big so young that like they don't really know what else they can do, right? And so you have them doing things like trying to make movies or trying to make TV shows, or branching out into music and stuff, and we're going to see a lot of YouTube era creators like in various fields for the next few years. I think like we're going to start seeing them. We've already started to see them on like cooking shows and things like that, but I think that we're going to see a lot more of them trying to, especially because of the way that things are going right now with like films and theaters and stuff not doing well. They're going to be kind of starving for like sellable content. And like getting a YouTuber in there that already has like a 6 million following, like, and then putting their movie in a theater or on a streaming service that's struggling, and like hoping to inject some life into some of it. I think, it'll be interesting to see who succeeds and how they succeed, because I think that's the other part of it, is that I think because a lot of these are self-funded, they're not doing well, but that's okay. Like that why we're not talking about it so much is because it's not really doing anything except hurting the creator that tried. And even then, they always go back to YouTube and just make that money again. Like, not that it's that easy, but that's the mentality, right? Is like there isn't an entire industry behind these people right now. So it's not like we're losing entire sectors of jobs in the film industry if a YouTuber can't seem to get their biography film out there yet. But that will change, right? We're gonna find somebody's going to invest soon, right? I feel like the closest we've got right now is the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, which is doing pretty gangbusters at the moment. Their whole like release over the last month of all of their teaser stuff, because they started filming this month, or will start filming this month for the sequel.
Started, and there was
they
that
started October
one...
27th, I think, is what it was.
Well, I know Matthew Lillard in the outfit with Scooby-Doo has been all over my socials.
Nice.
And I'm just like, that's interesting. That's funny, though, because you think, I mean, Eminem on Thursday of this past week turned 52 years old. And to celebrate that, a station that, like, totally is not Eminem played The Real Slim Shady. And that whole thing of like, I'll be the only person in the nursing home flirting when I'm 30. Like, that's what these kids could do. These YouTube people, a lot of them could retire. I understand that like they want to keep doing something, right? You don't just want to retire at 30 and then like slowly fade away as you don't do anything. But I
No,
don't
but
know.
that's it, right? Is that they're hitting that point in their life where they want to try and do something else, and they've got a pretty good safety net generally.
Yeah,
Like even if they're not making bank, like they've got the privilege of at least some cushioning,
they have the
right?
privilege of
So
an
it's allowing them
audience.
to try
Yeah,
some things.
yeah. I mean that's a huge issue. What's going on with Gen Z is so many of them just want to be YouTubers, and it's not the same as like wanting to be an actor, right? Like it's like to be a YouTuber, all you really need is a camera and a computer. So like they can try it, but also all of these people who are successful on YouTube, they kind of make it look effortless. We very
Yeah.
rarely see the behind the scenes, or because it's like small production groups. It's not like Hollywood where there are hundreds of people who are working on something like a half-hour television program, right? So we don't see that. We don't see what goes on behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
like the job that most people in Generation Z, and I'm not disparaging in any way, shape, or form. These are the facts and figures as they have been presented. Like they want to be famous on YouTube. They want to be influencers on TikTok. And so like there is money there, but you have to be part of the top 1% of the 1%. Like it is not a sustainable job for everybody.
Yeah, and then when like the kinds of people that they're emulating are not people like Matt Pat and Markiplier who are out there like doing charity foundations, then it's guys like Asmongold who are out there doing like Nazi shit. And like argue all you want about what he was actually trying to say or not, but like even he openly admitted that like, yeah, I said some things in a way I shouldn't, and because of that, Twitch banned me for 30 days, and also two companies that I'm on like the technically I guess board of that like asked him to step down and shit. Like there are also awful examples of people out there who are succeeding, and that sucks because then there's also these kids out there that think that they want to do this kind of shit, and that's the way they want to go about it. And it's just like, great, that's just what we need. There's more of that rot. But
I mean,
I think that there is definitely a section of Gen Zers that look at YouTube as a viable career because, to be entirely honest,
it
it's been
kind of
proven to be.
is. Yeah,
Because
like
even if you're not top, even if you're not making those millions of dollars and like being a celebrity where you don't have to work all day, we do also still have a good handful of YouTubers that are like, this is what I do as a hobby, right? I think of like, there's the homesteader guy, Nate, what's his name? But he's become really famous for like his YouTube shorts where like he goes around with his dogs and talks about how he made a bunch of money, then moved out to the woods, and how he's like building like a life out in the woods with his girlfriend. And like that's really popular on YouTube right now. And he talks about that guy openly talks about how he makes money from what he does with the shorts, but it's not like that is enough money for him to like live his life extravagantly. The whole reason he's doing this whole run off to the woods thing is because he doesn't want to live an extravagant life. So he's like, yeah, I make enough money to basically keep the channel going and like buy myself some snacks. Like that's where the money is going. And like people can't wrap their head around the fact that as popular as he is for like his YouTube shorts, he's not making bank, but he's like, this is the stuff they pay you for. Like, that's just not what happens. But like people don't really know how the financial side of it works, so they just assume that if I know you as a YouTuber, then you must be big enough to be making money, and that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of YouTubers that people know like the names of that aren't really making the big bucks doing YouTube. They're usually doing that in the evenings. They're doing it on the weekends. They're doing it when they've got the time. I fell down a real rabbit hole of like just some wild old school YouTube. It's a newer channel, but it feels like it's a channel from 20 years ago. Is Ordinary Sausage, where he basically will like turn anything into sausage. Everything from like I watched him do a Kobe beef sausage the other day to like do like a Sour Patch Kids like sausage, like just some really silly shit that he's willing to put through a grinder. He puts on like a weird like Peter Griffin-esque voice the entire time. But he's got like sponsors and stuff. Like he's doing manscaping commercials and Helix like sleep commercials in the middle of his 5 minute long YouTube videos, and he only puts two up a week, and like it's just him for 5 minutes putting sausage together. Like, I'm not saying that there's not a lot of work that goes into it, but it sure isn't anything that requires like a huge production team or anything. He doesn't even show his face in the majority of his videos. Usually it's all just hands over a cutting board. So like there's not even really much going on in terms of like set or anything either. But I don't think that dude is doing that like full time. Like I do not think this dude's job is just this silly YouTube channel. I think he makes enough money again to keep the channel going and to do things like buy equipment to make the sausage and stuff because he's like upgraded tools and like has to buy things like the meat and the casing and things like that. So like I'm sure he is making money that he is then just turning around and feeding it back into his channel, right? And like that's cool. That's awesome. I don't doubt for a moment he has an actual job the rest of the week.
I don't know if I want to watch that or not because it feels like it could become my new obsession. As I recently come off of my identity being the Crow for the last week. Not the actual Crow, but like all I wanted to talk about was the Crow.
Yeah. But there's just been some cool stuff going on, you know. Then on Halloween also, we've talked about this before, but like doing like scary movies, doing Christmas movies, doing things like that also gives you like a really good amount of wiggle room in terms of like people are willing to forgive some stuff. I mean, I mentioned earlier that I am willing. I was already on board to look past some rather low grade like art in order to like enjoy this thing, but actually it's been surprisingly cool to watch Edge of Sleep and see how well done it actually is. But you know, other YouTubers out there trying stuff, why not? Because like if they can get a couple of sets together and get some friends on board and make a movie and it's enough to like bring some joy to people right now, like I'm all for that. I think I mentioned like last year at Sundance, I got to see there was a YouTube one, Onyx the Fortuitous, who is like another like YouTuber that I think that movie is actually up for free on Prime right now. If you have Amazon Prime, by the way, Onyx the Fortuitous is available to watch, and I highly recommend it. It is like some really good like early Tim Burton-y stuff with like the puppet work and the silliness of the story and things like that. Yeah, there's people trying things as far as the YouTube stuff goes, and it's not all just these assholes like Logan Paul and KSI and Mr. Beast who are out there trying to like fight with other YouTubers because they got called out for like selling Lunchable knockoffs that were just as bad, if not worse, for kids than Lunchables, and like trying to sell it on like we're the healthy option is just like fuck off.
we come with the hydration drink, guys. Yeah, but
with electrolytes. That just means salt. We know that just means salt, you jackasses.
You're ruining everything, Sejohn. This is why you got fired from Prime.
Yeah.
Good times. All right, well, the fall TV schedule officially started this week. Everything was new. I'd like to just give a couple of things. The Matlock show, the season premiere was on September 22nd. So they gave us like a good 4 weeks to fall in love with Matlock. Are you familiar at all with Kathy Bates Matlock, Sejohn? This incredible show.
Is this season?
This is the first season. This is a brandy new show.
Why do I feel like we watched the pilot for this over the summer?
You may have. The trailer that was released over the summer felt like a pilot in a lot of ways. But
okay,
it did not,
maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
yeah. The original like reveal of Kathy Bates is going to be in a Matlock was crazy because the first thing to know about Kathy Bates Matlock is that is not a Matlock reboot. It's just called Matlock because her name is Madeline Matlock, and so it's a lot of. Kind of like, I never watched Doogie Kamehameha. I know I messed that up. The Doogie Howser reboot that was set in Hawaii.
Right, yep.
Doogie Kameloa, was that the name of it? I never watched it. I don't know the name of it. But I know it existed. And one of the things that show did was like, oh, you're kind of like Doogie Howser. Like, so Doogie Howser existed in that world. And so from the original pitch of the Matlock series, what it felt like was, oh, okay, so she lives in a world where Matlock was a show and that happens to be her last name. So, like, we're bringing you into this show because we're using the name that is familiar to you, but then it's its own thing. And, like, they get to use the Matlock theme song because it's a bunch of, like, younger lawyers mocking her when she walks in the room. They play the Matlock theme song. Like, they fucking broke the fucking equation and problem of reboots and remakes by like, we'll call it, but we'll make it new. The cast is fucking incredible. In addition to Kathy Bates, you have Beau Bridges, Sam Anderson, Jason Ritter, and David Del Rio. Like, those are the names that you might know. I'm sure Sky P. Marshall has done other things. I don't recognize her from anything. Let's check. She was in This Is Us for one episode. Sorry. I thought that was going to go further than that. She was in a couple episodes of The Rookie. What's her biggest thing? She's been in a couple of Grey's Anatomy. She's never had like a real breakout. Her biggest breakout role, longest thing, was either Black Lightning for 10 episodes, or Chilling Adventures of Sabrina for 11, or Good Sam. I don't know what this is. Being a talented yet stifled surgeon who embraces her leadership after her renowned and pompous boss falls into a coma. Sophia Bush was in it. Was that the one where her father was? Oh, that show was terrible. Good Sam was a terrible show. The second episode had. Well, we're talking about. She was in that show, and that's the biggest one. 13 episodes. So good. That explains how she's on the CBS wagon. We're talking about Sky P. Marshall.
Okay.
Because she's also in Matlock. She's the partner of the law firm that Matlock works for directly. And it's been really interesting, but now's the time for spoilers for the Matlock show that has currently aired only 2 episodes. The last 5 minutes of the pilot reveals that everything is a fucking lie.
What?
So, okay, again, spoilers. I'm gonna tell it all. I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid. I'm gonna share everything.
I'm so excited.
If you want to watch Matlock, stop, go watch the first episode of Matlock, and then you can come back and you can compare your notes against my notes. So she leaves work and she's like, I have to get home. She's been telling lies this whole time. I'm Madeline Matlock. I'm raising, my 12-year-old grandson after his mother died, and I'm a widower myself. And like the reason I'm trying to get into law again is because I want to make a shit ton of money because it's expensive living in the world, right? But then at the end of the episode, she's like, well, I got to get home to my grandson. Have a good night, folks. She turns the corner from the entrance to the law office, and there is a limousine waiting there. And the chauffeur gets up, gets out of the car, opens the door, and says, good evening, Miss Kingston. As she gets in the car, as she drives home, and she doesn't live in Queens, like she's been saying. She lives in a fucking beautiful mansion. And she gets out of the car where she's greeted by her husband. And he's like, how was it today? And she's like, oh, you wouldn't be happy with me if you heard about some of the things I said about you. You were a gambler, a philanderer. Oh, and did I mention you're dead? And they have a nice laugh about it. And then it's the reveal, the 12-year-old grandson comes down, and he's like, did it work? Was Matlock the perfect name, or was Matlock the perfect name? She's like, it's the perfect name. It disarmed everybody. Like, everybody took me right in. And it's like, good. And the reason that she's doing everything is that this law firm where she has gotten herself a job was responsible for, like, burying documents that opioids were hyper addictive and hyper deadly. And her daughter.
So she's in there to like bring them down.
Yeah,
from the
because
inside?
her daughter died. Like the only truth she told in the whole thing is that she lost her daughter, and that's why she's raising her 12-year-old grandson. But she didn't say how she lost her daughter or anything like that. But it was to an opioid overdose. So she's there to determine which of the 3 partners, Beau Bridges, Jason Ritter, or Sky P. Marshall, knew about the opioid stuff and buried it. Otherwise, we could have known about this 10 years earlier, and her daughter would still be alive. Like, is this whole espionage? It's like the end of Usual Suspects, where it's revealed that the whole fucking time, that freaking
what
Kevin
a wild
Pollak
concept for a show. So it's not a reboot at all. It's not a remake of Matlock at all.
Other than the fact that she's like an unassuming older person. Like, that's it. Like, because Matlock, like, everybody kind of like counted him out because of his advanced age. Like, that's the only sort of like thing there. But it's this whole thing, and that was awesome. Like the whole, Kaiser Soze stops limping, starts walking straight, and oh my god, it's Kevin Pollak who's Kaiser Soze. I know, okay, everybody. I just don't like to ruin who it actually is in that movie. Was incredible. The second episode failed to match the same level of that pilot. And I have to be honest, that's a high fucking pilot to do. And they got pretty close. It's just like in that first episode, you believe that the whole thing that she's doing is an act when you see how cunning and clever she was in at the end of the pilot. So then the second episode, and I'm a fucking asshole because she's like, yeah, from 1987 to 1992, all I got was Matlock jokes, and I'm like, but Matlock ran till 95, and they start off the second episode, right? This is I'm name checking one of the guys I work with in my office because he's like, he writes parody songs for fun. And he's like, and sometimes I will put in a fact that I know is wrong. And then when I play out, people come up and they're like, you're wrong about this. And he's like, congratulations, I put that in there for you. Right? It's like specifically like as a hook for his little parodies, he'll put something that like is almost true. So like 90% of the people will believe it. But I remember watching the first episode. I'm like, Matlock ran for 3 more years. What's she talking about? And it opens with her having an anxiety dream that everybody found her out because she lied about when Matlock was on the TV. And it's just like, oh, okay. And then like she had a hard day at work and she like came home and broke down in tears about how hard this like duality life she's trying to lead to get like justice for her daughter is. And it's like, this doesn't feel, you feel like a different character than the pilot. And I understand that like pilots in some ways are made to stand alone and like you really have to judge the show on what comes after it. That's why a lot of the times the second episode of a TV show is kind of like a second pilot. Right?
Like a big old like reboot in and of itself, right?
So like, I'm like, man, like you were so cool. Like this stuff does not feel like you. But then at the end of it, they try to salvage it. She says that she's going back to her apartment in Queens and like, we know she lives in the mansion, but she left like, her boss, Olivia P. Sky's character, like kind of owed her an apology because rather than trust her with a plan, she like kept her on the outs. And like, so she's like, you know what, you can call it trust, but at the end of the day, you manipulated me and I'm not going to give you a gold star for manipulating me, right? We're supposed to be a team. I'm here to make your job easier. You're not going to treat me like, if you want to use me on a plan, trust that I can be part of the plan without you being duplicitous and lying to me. Like she has this whole big speech to this lawyer at the law firm and she's in the room with other partners and she's like, well, that was uncalled for. And then one of the partners like, no, but she's 100% correct. Like you kind of owe her an apology. So then she had forgotten her food there. Like they get dinner if they work past 7:00 and she forgot her food. So she's like, well, you're going that way anyway. You could drop the food off and give her the apology at home, which that is my biggest complaint about fall 2024 television. All of the shows I'm watching have the boss of the main character just casually dropping by their house. If my boss casually dropped by my house, I would be looking for a new job. That is an overstep. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like but like every show has had that moment. And like on something like
Weird.
Dr. Odyssey, they live on the ship.
What a weird through line.
Yeah. Like on Dr. Odyssey, they live in the ship. So like I kind of get that the captain can come to your room at any time. Though like medical staff and the captain, they should not be hobnobbing as much as they do in Dr. Odyssey. But that's a Devon Decker problem. We can address that later. But it is just like, please don't do that. So then she's going to her where she says she lives in Queens, but we see her get into the limousine and we see the limousine pull up at the house and you're like, oh my God, they're going to find out about it. But then she knocks on the door and she opens the door in Queens and, she sent the limo to the house with food for her husband, her living husband, who she claims is dead. So then she's saying like, staying in Queens tonight, enjoy your dinner. So that, like to make the lie go on, but also they had put a spy camera above the door and they caught the passcode for that Olivia Skye's character's phone as she entered it into the phone. So like now they can get into her phone and go through her files and see if she's the one who buried the lead about the opioids. And I'm pretty sure, right, this is a Devon Decker theory, so we'll take it for what it's worth, that it's not going to be any of the three people she thinks are suspects, Jason Ritter, Beau Bridges, or Olympia P. Skye. I think is going to be the guy that Olympia P. Skye is dating, who also works at the law firm, which also complicates things because she was married to Jason Ritter's character. Oh, and Beau Bridges is Jason Ritter's father, which means that, like, he's her former father-in-law. And in the first episode, the whole, I will always be your father-in-law, even if you're getting divorced. And then in the second episode, Jason Ritter, like, in a divorce, you'd expect the father to take the side of his biological child. To which Beau Bridges did, well, in a divorce, the divorce isn't happening because of the severity of what you did. So, like, I don't know what Jason Ritter did. Probably has to do with Bill fucking Cipher. That's the only level I can think where the father would take, like, the daughter-in-law's side.
So to the thing that you pointed out earlier about about her kind of having the breakdown and you feeling like this is a different character, I feel like they probably got like a note after that pilot of like too silly, ground her, like something in that vein, that shitty thing that we talk about happening all the time, where they're like, we need to make this more believable, right? And in that you have her have that moment, because I can understand why she would have that, right, where she would shake or she would falter. But a couple of things that I would feel about that. Now, take this as a grain of salt. This is somebody that has not seen any of this. But I would expect something like that narratively to happen later in the season.
Fourth episode.
I would expect it to.
That's where that happens. Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I would expect it to happen later in the season. I would expect it to be a much more impactful moment that felt like more like we had been leading to this rather than just where did this come from, right? There's a lot of that going on. But it feels like that is definitely a reaction to maybe some stuff in the first episode of this is essentially too good. Like, she's too good at this. We need to see that she is struggling in some way, because I get the impression from what you're saying that this is not normal for her. She's not like a super spy, and like taking on the identity of another person is not something she is used to in her life, right? Like, this is something new.
No, but I do imagine that she was a lawyer at some point, which is why she's able to like say, I have a law degree, I just haven't practiced in X amount of years. And that, like, I don't think she's lying about having like a law degree, but yeah, she's not a super spy. All of that stuff is right. But it is, I mean, it's the Superman problem, right? We've talked about the Superman problem a lot in our past couple of recordings that have not been released for public consumption yet, in terms of like, yeah, she's too good. You need to ground her. But like having her wake up in this episode to the fear of like, oh, Matlock, even though it only was on CBS till 92, it had those seasons on ABC. Why did I make such a stupid mistake? And then it ends, like the last scene before the whole reveal in Queens is her and Beau Bridges in the elevator, and him like, I couldn't help but notice you said that till 92 you got a lot of ridicule from about having the same name as Matlock. And then she's like, oh, but I don't count the ABC years. Most people weren't watching it after the network changed, so I got a lot less of it. It was bad when it was on CBS. And like that's when I was getting the ridicule. But I'm like, that's a great like ticking time bomb that they put into the show, and like they've already set it. Not even set it off. They already disarmed it, right?
Yeah, they already diffused it, right? Yeah, yeah. It's also, it feels a really on the nose. I would have to see like how it works in universe, because it feels very much like an actually answer.
Yeah, like I'm like it happened, and I'm like, pretty sure Matlock ran until 95. But I'm like, but also, I'm not the ones who are making this show. One would hope that the people making the show did their research. So I'm just going to be quiet about it. But then, like, they open it, and I'm like, okay, good. So I was right, but they're gonna make it part of the story that, like, she's lying about who she is. So, like, it is this thing, but, like, the breakdown of it, I feel like the issue is more that, like, by putting it in the second episode, I don't really know this character at all. Like, I had a pretty good idea about who she was after the first episode, but then by having her have that like breakdown and like this crisis of faith and conscience is what she's doing in the second episode, like it doesn't really affect me as heavily as it would if it happened a little bit down the line, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's the complaint. I'm still going to keep watching the show. I'm still like connected to it. It just was the best thing about fall 2024 TV for me is the fact that I was not excited at all about fall 2024 TV. I was not like, I'm like, new TV. Do I even fucking care anymore? Like it's mostly new shows. A lot of the like long running shows are over. I don't know if I want to get invested. Like all of these shows are going to get canceled. I don't know. I was feeling like about the fact that new TV was coming. And the 3 shows that I have watched more than one episode of, right? So I've seen a pilot and I've seen the follow-up to that pilot. All of the second episodes like were so drastically different from the pilot. Dr. Odyssey, like that pilot felt like we know what we want this show to be. And then the second episode happened and I'm like, they did not think this show was going to get picked up. They did not think. They're like, this is a fun thing to make. We got some good people together. We'll get paid for the pilot, but I don't think they're going to pick this up. And then they fucking picked it up. So like every week feels like a scramble to like, what do we want to do with this fucking show? Right? And you compared it to the fact that he's got like American Justice Story going on right now with the Menendez brothers. And
right.
Like that's another Ryan Murphy show that's
the other
on.
Ryan Murphy. Yeah, that's the other Ryan Murphy show, right?
What Dr. Odyssey feels like in a weird way after 3 episodes and knowing what the 5th episode is going to be because there's been promos, it feels like a Ryan Murphy anthology series. Like the 3rd episode felt like an episode of Nip Tuck. The 2nd episode, the singles week of it all, and the fact that Cord Overstreet was there kind of felt like Glee. Like there was a lot of Glee in what was going on.
I can't wait for the American Horror Story episode for Halloween.
That's what's coming up for Halloween, is an American Horror one, where there's a contagion on board and they're like not sure what it is. And it does feel like it's going to be like an episode of American Horror Story, the one that's airing this Thursday.
Nice.
So, I mean, and that like kind of confirmed it, because the 4th episode was not really anything. It was like a wellness cruise, but what it did in terms of like, this is a Ryan Murphy story, the fucking guest stars on display in that episode was crazy. Starting with like Laura Berlant was there, but then Margaret Cho and Amy Sedaris. And I would have thought that the girl who played Liz Allen in Spider-Man Homecoming was just it, but then she signed on as the new chef on the cruise ship, because I'm sure somebody was like, hey, so you have 4 core cast members on this show and most of them are men. So like you need some more female voices on this show. That is a definite note they got based upon the fact that they introduced the engineer Rosie, who I would die for. I love her. She's so great. And part of the reason she's so great is because she is just LT from my time working on the Carnival Dream. Because the Devon Decker's journals on the Carnival Dream still the basis for everything that's fucking happening in Dr. Odyssey. It's kind of crazy. That, or it turns out my time working on the ocean was a lot more universal and everybody has these experiences than I ever would have thought. But she's so much LT from that, and it's a good thing, right? Like I would die for you, Rosie, if they kill you in this episode, because they wound up in like a hurricane. And yeah, so that was like the big thing, is them having to do an emergency appendicitis, which that's just part of the Devon Decker normal story, not just the cruise story. But, you know, I had a very bad appendicitis issue, right, where it burst. Quotes the doctor, I pumped enough poison out of you to kill 10 people, so consider yourself extremely lucky you're still alive. Right? That's a thing to hear from your surgeon when you're 18 years old. But yeah, and then they also added the new chef. And I don't know. I don't know what's happening with Dr. Odyssey. I do enjoy watching it, but first episode felt like we have all of our ducks in a row. Second episode, oh shit, they picked this up. What do we want to be? Do we want to be a medical show? Do we want to be the Love Boat? What the fuck do we want to be? Can we get Shania Twain? Let's get Shania Twain. We'll have Shania Twain in the second episode. And hopefully people will like forgive that episode as we work on much better stories for the rest of the series. And Woman with a Nose Job losing her nose, which happened in the third episode. I think I talked about it, but if I didn't, that's a thing that happened.
That sounds very nip tuck.
Yeah, very exactly. And that's how I knew it was happening, because she like went to do cocaine, and I'm like, oh no, you don't do cocaine after a nose job. That's how you lose your nose. And that's what happened to her. And yeah, that's super nip tuck. So I don't know. That's been Dr. Odyssey. And then the other one, High Potential, the Caitlin Olsen show. Mm-hmm. The first episode, the pilot had that pilot problem of we're going to just throw in a million different things, and then if we get picked up, we have a bunch of threads that we can choose to follow. Like characters are gone from that show already and stuff like that. That was interesting, but the second episode, they did a lot of like killing people who like ultimately were innocents. And I don't mean like, yes, obviously in a police procedural, generally you're going to have somebody die before the first commercial break or the theme song, right? And it sucked that it was like an 18-year-old kid. But then like later on in it, the guy who was being blackmailed to participate in these robberies, he was also killed. And it's just like, see, like you guys, that feels like you don't know what you want to do with this show. Like that second episode, I'm like, I really liked the first one, but I don't know if I want to stick with this show. But I will say,
did it get like really dark? Is that what you mean?
Like it got dark, and it got kind of like I don't know. Like it just was like, this is not what I expected from this like Castle style show. I know that Castle got pretty dark, but like the first episode was very, very light. Like we never even saw the dead body in the first episode. And like both of them front and center in the second. But they've done 4 episodes on that. I am on board with High Potential for the 4 episodes. My biggest complaint about it is it seems like it's trying to Elsbeth, the Carrie Preston spinoff of The Good Wife, is probably one of my favorite of the like newer shows on them. They just started their second season. But the thing about that show is that before the theme song, you see the person commit the crime. You know who the killer is, you know how they did it, and you generally know why. And then what the fun of the show is watching how the killer slips up and Elsbeth realizes their mistakes. So, like, it's actually kind of interesting because it's like the Jeopardy of police procedurals where, like, we already know the answer, but we need to figure out the question. And we figure out the question through the Elsbeth's character. And High Potential feels like it's ABC's answer to Elsbeth in a lot of ways. But, like, so often it's like, we don't know exactly what happened or how it happened. But when Caitlin Olsen's character comes in, she's like, well, this is what happened. Like, this is what it's going to be. And then it's her proving her hypothesis. So, like, it's kind of boring in a way because, like, she's so sure of what's going to happen. And then a lot of the show is her being proven correct. And, like, the 4th episode of that show, it really felt like, oh, no, she's wrong. Like, she's blinded by her biases and stuff, and she's going to be incorrect. But then by the end of it, it proved that she was correct. And I'm just like, see, this is boring. Like, I'm not engaged in this. It's fun watching Elsbeth spar with a person we know is guilty and them, like, trying to cover their tracks, but then, like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or, oh, you shouldn't have glanced that way. Like, it's fun that way. Like, there's a tension there. I don't have the tension with High Potential, and that is a shame. And those are, like, 2 of those I've gotten to 4-episode test on. Matlock, I've only done the 2, but I'm very interested to see. Elsbeth has only had 1 episode, but it's the sophomore season. So, like, that's not the same sort of thing. Hopefully they understand how their show is going to work. And they've already introduced a nice wrinkle for the season to have a nice season-long arc. And, Nathan Lane was there. And it was about the opera. And it was excellent. It was just an excellent first episode of the show. But the last thing, I'm happy you brought up Hocus Pocus because, Reba McEntire's got a new sitcom. I'm sorry, I won't do the voice anymore. Called Happy's Place. And it happens to feature, from Hocus Pocus 2, Melissa Escobedo as Isabella. And spoilers for Happy Place, because I didn't know that this is what the show was. I literally thought Happy's Place was just going to be a bar show. But no, you got to have some conflict. Happy, the owner of Happy's Place, the titular character, was Reba's father. And he passed away, leaving the bar to Reba McEntire. Her character's name is Bobby. But it turns out he had a secret daughter named Isabella. And he also left half of the bar to her. So it's kind of a millennial and boomer, like, button heads about how to run this business now that they're both
Cheers meets The Odd Couple, meets any parenting one that you want to point to.
They definitely use Cheers as a basis. She's so Sam. Melissa Peterman's character is like kind of a Carla, but like that. But then like Isabella, the new one, the person that like we're meeting all these people through, she's so Diane Chambers, down to the fact that she has her master's in psychology. And I'm just like, really? Really? That's what we're doing this again? There's a reason we got rid of her and brought in Rebecca. And it's because Shelley Long decided to leave the show. She decided to leave the show because everybody hated her and she felt like nobody liked her. But, So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I ended up liking it, but I was happy to see Melissa Escobedo again because she was really good in Hocus Pocus 2. She plays Izzy in that as well, if you're not sure of the actor's name. But yeah, and it's a lot of people. Weirdly, Young Sheldon ended, and 3 people from Young Sheldon wound up in Happy's Place: Reba McEntire, Melissa Peterman, and Rex Linn. And then the other ones all landed in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, which I'm sad going from. Big Bang Theory was a multi-camera laugh track show, or a laughin' show, as Georgie Cooper says in the first episode of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Young Sheldon was very much a single camera, no laughs show. And now that Georgie and Mandy is there, it's back to multicam with a laugh track, which they punctuate with the first thing. I don't remember what show they were watching. I feel like an asshole because I don't remember what show they were watching. And he's like, I like this show because it's a laughing show. When you hear him laugh, it lets you know when you're supposed to laugh. And then that got a big laugh from the audience. Frasier. They were watching Frasier. I like Frasier. Nice. It's a laughing show. I'm like, was it Cheers? I'm like, no, it wasn't Cheers. It was Frasier. So that you're reminded while you're watching the show on CBS, isn't there a new Frasier on Paramount Plus? Because I'm a cynical bastard. And that one was fine too, but like going from a single camera, no laugh track with Young Sheldon to multicam again with a laugh track, that was a bigger like jump than I was expecting in terms of enjoying the series. But definitely check it out. Montana Jordan is a great actor. I hope that he doesn't just play Georgie Cooper with his life. I hope he can find other stuff. But, in terms of a sequel spin-off series of one of the least likely characters, probably also why they were watching Frasier at the beginning of the show, I think that his abilities as an actor, and he's young too. I don't know how old Montana is. Montana Jordan was born in 2003. Right. So he is 21 years old, right?
Yeah.
So he's a young actor and he's doing a good job for everything that he's done so far. So
nice. Awesome.
I think that's all the TV. Oh, I watched the first episode of High Surf on Fox. Terrible pilot. Terrible pilot. They did not make the chief, the captain, Uncle Ho. They all call him Uncle. And they didn't do enough to make you like know that he's a good guy before he completely sold out the Rescue High Surf team in order to like get approval and funding from the mayor, who's played by Sean Hatosi, which like I didn't have seeing Sean Hatosi in a show on my 2024 bingo card, but there you go. And that's aired 5 episodes, but I've only seen 1, so I'll have more to report next week. But the first episode like pissed me off. Like when you have a character who's supposed to be this beloved character and his second in command is like, what the fuck is going on with you? Like the man I know would have never done that. It's like, yeah, okay. So like that was a weird move by this guy, and I don't know him enough for the way that you do. So like as an audience member, I kind of hate him right now. And that's going to be hard to build a show around. But, you know, they'll make it work. These people at Fox, they got degrees. So yeah.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad the TV is still TV.
TV is still TV, right? And we can always hang our hats on that. I would like to talk about 2 other games that I played this week, if you'll indulge me, Sejohn.
Okay.
So it's really
yeah.
it's 3 games, right? I a little bit there. RetroRealms, the new sort of arcade style game that WayForward published, but it was made by I think like Boss Man Games. Let me get that information up. But it's RetroRealms is the name of it. You download packs in it, and currently right now you have Halloween and Ash versus the Evil Dead. I should have just typed in wiki. Why didn't I type in the word Wikipedia? Oh man, who did this stuff? Jeez. I'll just go to the Steam page. Nope, because I gotta tell you how old I am. Sejohn, while I talk about the game, can you get the name of the company that makes this? RetroRealms One World.
Sorry.
Yeah. Because WayForward is the publisher, but I don't know. There it is. I have it. Boss Team Games is the publisher. Oh, WayForward is only the developer. Boss Team Games actually published it. That's strange. I'm not used to that. WayForward generally publishes their own games that they develop. I don't know where that comes from. But yeah, so they released it. You can buy Ash vs. the Evil Dead standalone for $25. You can buy Halloween standalone for $25. Or you can get both in a package for $50. And if you do that right now, you can play the Ash vs. the Evil Dead game as Michael Myers. You can play the Halloween game as Ash. And you also unlock as unlockable characters, playable characters, Laurie Strode and Kelly Maxwell. Mm-hmm. So this game feels a lot like the Bloodstained Curse of the Moon games. You don't get to switch between characters, but having 4 unique characters who all play very differently with their own skill trees really does like make these games feel like in the vein of like the Castlevania games where you get to choose your character before you go through the world. Castlevania is probably the closest analog that I would point to for these games, not just because of the horror nature, but like the nature of you go through generally 2-part stages. If you die, you go back to the beginning of the part of the stage you're in, and then it's 5 worlds, 10 stages. And it's really interesting with like big, beautiful boss fights at the end. Like I said, you're collecting money in order to buy upgrades. If you're playing as an Ash vs. the Evil Dead character, so Ash or Kelly, you are collecting 3 Necronomicon pages in each stage. If you are Strode or Michael Myers, you are collecting jack-o'-lanterns as Michael Myers. Oh yeah, you don't collect Necronomicon pages as Kelly. They all have a unique collectible they have to find in each stage. They're all hidden in the same space still. Right? But what you're picking up is different. Ash is Necronomicon pages. Kelly is F-bombs. I have not watched enough Ash versus Evil Dead to understand why that might be funny. But they're bombs with the letter F written on them. So
Yeah, it's just a dumb joke from the show. I'm really confused as to why these are interchangeable.
what do you mean? Why? What is
Like the characters being interchangeable. Like the fact that I can go through the game as Ash, but like if it's the Mike Myers story, is Ash just doing a bunch of like fucked up like kills like Mike Myers just as Ash? Like why would I want to do that?
All right. So the overarching like character that connects the worlds is a demon referred to as Overlord. He's an 8-eyed demon who also has 8 limbs. So he kind of like a corruption of a biblical angel. In the Halloween game, he frees Michael Myers from the asylum and asks him to kill in his name, and that if he does that, then he will make him like the ruler of the new world as his second in command, right? Like kill a bunch of people, their deaths will fuel me, and then once I have enough power to take over and corrupt the world, you will serve as my second in command. And then like through the story, it's actually really interesting as Michael Myers, because like he knows that he doesn't really care about that. So what he then does to entice him is the fact that he will let him have his sister's headstone, right? Like that's what Michael Myers covets the most in the world is Judith's headstone.
So they lean into some of the later Mike Myers stuff with like the whole wanting to find his family stuff. Weird. It's just this is something that I kind of offhandedly mentioned when we first mentioned these games a couple of weeks back, but like there's a real weird thing going on in games right now. I don't know if it's like new to games, but because you did have like the Jason Voorhees games from back in the day and stuff like that too. So this isn't really that new, but I've just never really grokked the whole like wanting to play as the killer in these like single player experiences, right? Like I get it in like Dead by Daylight and things like that because it's fun because you're like going up against your friends, or even the other because we're here, the other Evil Dead game that had come out recently where like you could play as Deadites and stuff like that, right? Like that's that I get. What I don't get is in like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that has come out recently. There was a Jason Voorhees one. There was a Friday the 13th one a couple of years ago, maybe. But then like the aspect here where like I just don't have a desire to play as Michael Myers. I would play the hell out of a game where I'm fighting Michael Myers, where I get to play as Laurie, and that's like the thing. But like this idea that like you play as Michael Myers, like I don't understand the like I don't care that much about like giving him what he wants, I guess is the aspect of it. And then the idea of playing through this game but as Ash instead still confuses me. Like if you bring in Ash into this world, do you just play the same game? It's just coded with just Ash's like skin over Mike Myers, or is there actual new dialogue, or like what is the
there is new dialogue. There's new dialogue in the fact that like Ash, in trying to get the Necronomicon, once you complete Ash versus Evil Dead, you get the Necronomicon back from the Overlord, and then it ends with Ash going to reach for it, and then it's a white screen, and then credits roll, and it says to be continued. And the to be continued is that as he grabbed the Necronomicon, Ash was pulled into the universe where Halloween happens, and so it's still the same levels that you're playing as, but all of the like innocent people that you kill as Michael Myers are essentially Deadites. So there's that thing. And that's how it is when you play as Laurie as well, is that the Overlord has corrupted a bunch of people.
Right. And that makes more sense to me. That feels like good like video game. I just don't get the appeal of then wanting to play the other side of the story as like Michael Myers and like going around and just like murdering a bunch of people.
I think it is interesting that like I think the Halloween game, as it like standards release of everything, should have been Laurie as the main character. And then the bonus is that you can play through as Michael Myers. The fact that the bog standard character for the Halloween game is Michael Myers is a little fucked up. I will admit
and I'm not
that.
even saying that, right, and I'm not even saying like those kinds of games can't exist.
Right.
People want to play those games, clearly. Obviously those games do okay, so like that's fine. But by pairing it with Ash versus the Evil Dead, and as you're pointing out to me now, straight up tying like the narrative of these games together, like that is when it starts to feel weird. I don't want to watch Ash team up with Mike Myers. I want to watch Ash fight Mike Myers, right? There's something,
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something really weird about like trying to wrap my head around like I don't know too many people that look at Michael Myers in those movies as like a
Sympathetic
tragic
character.
figure.
He's not the Crow, not to be a total asshole, but he's not the Crow.
Right.
Like,
Right. He's not like a tragic figure who's killing people that deserve it. Like famously, he is killing like innocent like teenagers.
like the kill that happens narratively in the game, slight spoilers for RetroRealm's Halloween, is him dressed as the clown killing his sister. Like that is narratively his first kill in the universe. Because then you fight his sister's ghost is the fourth world boss. Like, because she's been corrupted by everything. So I don't know. I don't really know the Halloween movies that well. The only Halloween movie I know is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch or Curse of the Witch, or the best Halloween movie.
So famously, the family aspect, the whole like wanting to like get like his sister, get back to his sister, and like returning to the family home stuff and things like that. That's all stuff in later movies. Like it is one of those famous things of like that happened in these old horror series all the time, where the very first movie had a very specific story to tell, and then just when it hit as big as it did, they just kind of had to come up with bullshit reasons why things would go on in other places. It's why Season of the Witch exists, is because Carpenter was pretty much done with this character. He was like, I told my story in 1. You made me make 2 and I didn't love it. But 3, we're just going to do something else entirely. And that's when he creates Season of the Witch. And then that doesn't go well. And then a 4 comes along years later that goes back to the Mike Myers story and Michael Myers story. And like there's a bunch of stuff there. But one of the aspects that gets added to it to make sequels have any oomph to them is they add the whole family aspect into it. But generally, the first one is just about a dude that has escaped an insane asylum and goes on a killing spree.
Yeah.
Pretty stock standard, like slasher fare. It's just that it happened to have some really good music, some really good acting, and a little bit of a hook with like the doctor out there, Dr. Moon, trying to like stop the whole thing. Like there was just enough to it, just enough extra meat on its bones that it really hit for people. And so like that's the other thing, is that they're also leaning into a lot of story stuff that
is more modern.
Well, and not even that. There's also an aspect to it that it feels very much like it's its own thing. At some point, I don't know. It's just really weird. There's other big games out there though that really like delve into this kind of I think of like the Slaughterhouse games and things like that. Like there are games that this is reminiscent of that I understand why this works for some people. It's just it doesn't really work for me, and it's bumming me out because the Evil Dead of it all does work for me.
The Evil Dead
like,
stuff
I
is
want to
way
play
better.
Evil Dead.
The Evil Dead stuff is incredible. The goal of each level is to get to the car, and then you use the car to like roll over a bunch of deadites. They're not zombies, of deadites, and they explode in blood towards the screen. And as it streaks down, it says level complete in it. Like thematically, it feels like we really wanted to make an Evil Dead game. Yeah. They set it in the world of Ash versus Evil Dead, which is the one that I'm the least familiar with. I knew enough of it, right? Like when Ruby Noby showed up, I knew who that character was. But even then, like, it kind of feels, it's weird because Halloween feels like the more complete experience. Because, like, with the fact that, like, there is that cutscene of Michael in the clown costume killing his sister, and I'm just like, wow, that was interesting. Like, I never knew that part of it, and then I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I get where that whole thing comes from, and then how like her vengeful spirit is what you have to overcome in that level, and then like the finale of it is the friggin' Overlord being like, you're too unpredictable. But by watching you, I've been able to create a shadow version of you who will answer to all of my commands. So the final boss fight, wave 1, because every boss fight, final boss has to have multiple stages, is a shadow version of Mike Myers that Mike Myers has to defeat. And then you get to fight and destroy the Overlord. And it's just like, but like, you're right. Like narratively, it doesn't make sense. And also like the first boss that you fight is this guy, Mr. F. And the whole narrative thing behind that is, oh, this is another one who could serve as my second in command. If you want to take his place, you need to prove it by killing him. And then the second boss is Phelps Jr., because like it's the Phelps mechanic shop that he gets his coveralls from. So like you have to kill him in order to get your iconic coveralls, but you're already wearing the coveralls. Like it's just what? And then the third level, Loomis and Laurie Strode have been corrupted by the Overlord. So like you just have to kill them. They're evil, Loomis and Strode. Like it's not even like Mike Myers killing them, because they're his adversaries in these movies. They add this.
You know what really gets me?
Yeah.
Is that like if they had done this with Jason, I don't think I'd have nearly as many problems.
I get that.
The stories that they've already told in the film universe and video game universes of Jason are already this kind of over the top, that there are straight up like moments where like, I mean, you know, like Jason versus Freddy and things like that, where like him going up against another evil entity to like kick some ass is something that I can buy a lot more than the Mike Myers stuff. There's just like there's a goofiness, a silliness, and a weird attempt at justification for Michael Myers to be the way that he is that I don't want from that character at all. Even Jason Voorhees, I don't really want that stuff, but I've seen it attempted enough times already that I kind of understand why that's where he would go. Also, you mentioned that like here's my other like possible disciple. I wish it had just been Jason. Like what a goofy moment that would have been if it was Michael Myers versus Jason, and this guy was just like,
as nobody.
I could have either one of you.
Yeah. Like, and I don't know if, like, there are 4 other cabinets that are covered in the Retro Realms arcade. So, like, right. I imagine that there are going to be 4. If this does well, there will be 4 other games that come out, right? Like, they've given themselves that option. And then also, there's the option that, like, other games could be delivered to the arcade, right?
Right.
So I don't know. And it really kind of feels like, I mean, I don't really know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, but when you're not playing the games, you're able to walk around in the arcade and you are locked in the Retro Realms arcade. Like if you go to leave, the door doesn't open. So like you can go through like these little galleries, or like you break through doors that have been boarded up, and then you see like this whole room of like little curios sort of dioramas of the levels that you've completed. Like there's a lot of narrative in the game. This seems like the proof of concept of it. And again, the one, like after this conversation, and I don't disagree, right? First of all, playing as Michael Myers sucked. That may have also been because I did that on the PS4 version of the game, not the PS5 version of it. I've never played as Michael Myers on the PS5 version, but they're not easy platinums, but I platinumed on PS5 like after 5 hours of gaming, and I had a pretty good time doing it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm the second person in the world to platinum it based upon PSN profiles. Like that was cool to see that, like, oh, Fuck Zero got the second platinum in the world. Like, okay, but it's of people who are subscribed, blah blah blah, whatever. But like that felt cool, right? And then like I played the game like a mad person to do that. So then I'm like, oh, let's see if I can go get it on PS4, which is a completely different trophy list, requires you to complete both games to full completion to get the platinum. Not the case on the PS5 version, which, I mean, I don't understand why Sony is doing that with their trophies. Why they're different between iterations. Like, is it so I'll play both? I don't have to buy both to get them. One purchase gives me both.
I wonder if it's
them.
a different team situation where there's a different team that's working on the 4 one than there is on the 5, and they're just not communicating, so they're just doing different things as far as trophies go. Yeah. Like I wonder if it's not even a PlayStation thing, if it's like a creator thing.
Yeah. It's strange. But like, so that was the thing that I noticed. But I went back to PS4 to be like, oh, let's see if I can get this platinum as well. But I'll do it as Michael Myers this time. And he is slower. Like everything he does is slower. And then that's why I thought like, oh, it's kind of like Castlevania, where like you have Ash, who's kind of like your middle of the road. And then you have Laurie Strode, who she's a little bit weaker, but she has much better like movement tech. Like she can double jump and things like that. Or then you have Kelly, who like her literally has the machine gun she uses from the show, which is cool to have like a machine gun as an option. Like to kill stuff, that's fun.
Nice.
And then you have Mike Myers, who's like this tanky brute, right? He does more damage than everybody, but he's slow. So it's this interesting, like, whoever you play as, it's a different experience. But then looking at it, right? If you're going to get like a bonus for pre-ordering, right? Or eventually down the line, they say, after the pre-order window, you can purchase the downloadable content to play as Kelly or Laurie. Laurie Strode should be the quote unquote hero of the Halloween game. You should be playing as her. And it still works, right? Like it still worked. The whole narrative of when you start with her is that she is in the insane asylum and the Overlord comes and he's like, I'm breaking Michael Myers out of here. And she's like, well, why do I have to play your game? I don't have to leave this room, right? Like, I know that I'm someone who stopped him in the past, but why do I have to play her game? And then he reveals that he's kidnapped the kid that she's babysitting, Tommy. So, like, that's how she's involved in it. So if she's just trying to get that kid back and then she comes up against Michael Myers on his rampage, that would be, like, a cool narrative, right? Like,
right.
And it would make more sense to play as her. And then the bonus character you get to play as afterwards is Mike Myers. And also from a creative standpoint, not to judge or anything like that, but you don't need to give me a story when I'm playing as Mike Myers if you've already written a story for when I'm playing as Laurie Strode.
Right.
Like it's just like, oh, it's just the fun. Now you get to play as the bad guy going through the world. Like it's strange that we have both of these characters. Both of them are created. Let's make Michael Myers the main character of the game, who you play as no matter what. Okay.
Yeah, it feels really squishy. It feels like really edge lordy. Like you're gonna play as Mike Myers and go on a murder spree, but it's all justified because you're all going up against this bigger evil, and it's like, no, you're still just running around as Mike Myers, just murdering everybody.
Well, I mean, the craziest thing that you do as Mike Myers. So again, like possibly one of the reasons I would compare it to Castlevania is you get sub weapons in the levels, and for Ash, they're just hidden in the same blocks that you get the like potions or money from. Occasionally they can have one of the items in it, and it's like the Kandarian dagger or the axe that he uses, a nail gun, and the last one is a lantern, right? Those are the things that Ash gets. When you're Mike Myers, the sub weapons of his pitchfork, I don't remember the second one, but the dog bolo that he makes where he kills the dog and then uses it to trap the person by throwing it like bolos, and the hammer, and I do not remember. Oh, it's the wheat thresher scythe thing, right? For like harvesting wheat, the crescent thing. Like those sub weapons as Mike Myers, you have to kill what would be a victim in one of the Halloween movies. Like the first one you kill is a nurse, and then you get his pitchfork from it. And then as you're going through, like it's like a nerdy girl or like a guy in a Letterman jacket. Like, and you know if you kill them, you're going to get one of the sub weapons. And
Weird.
Because it's a living person, they have the opportunity to see you and run away. So like there's like, you need to prioritize killing them if you want the sub weapons. It's a pretty weird sort of like thing that I hadn't really thought of, because I played through Halloween first as Ash Williams because I wanted to see how they put him in the universe. And then I went back and beat Evil Dead as Ash. And then I'm like, well, now I've got the platinum on PS5. Let's go and do it as Michael Myers on the PS4 version. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, it's a little strange. I don't know.
It's something that we used to do back in like the early 90s, and then it became kind of taboo, right? Like to do the whole like cast you as the killer in the game thing. But there have been games that have played with that over the years, and for good or for ill, and people have appreciated that when they try, but also like it's not like playing like a Silent Hill game and finding out at the end of it that you've been an awful person the whole time, right? Narratively, that's interesting, and like you learn these terrible things about this person, and it's very dramatic. Versus like playing as Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and just like dragging kids through windows and like beheading them and stuff. It's just like, okay, this is just violent for the sake of being violent. And again, I don't want to act like that can't be a thing in the world. It's just so not a kind of game I want to play. and to tie it to something like Evil Dead, like it's like a series that I enjoy so much, and to see that there is some really good stuff going on with the Evil Dead side of this, it's just it's such a bummer that like if I were to want this whole experience, I would need to like suck it up and do some stuff with the Halloween side of things that I doesn't sound as interesting to me as the Evil Dead side does.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's what it is. I'm happy that they got Kelly and Laurie in there. If it were just Ash and Michael Myers, I don't think I would have been as thrilled with the experience. But no, I mean, like the Halloween, when I played as Ash the first time, it took me 2 hours to beat. Ash versus Evil Dead took me an hour and a half. And then as Michael Myers going through Halloween, it took me an hour and a half. So like they're like 90-minute little experiences. They're really good platformers in terms of that. But you're right. The skins that they put on them does kind of give pause. And like I'm tired of games, right? We said we were going to talk about Spider-Man 2. Here's what we're talking about Spider-Man 2. Offering these promises of more to come. And then like so often in the game industry, we're seeing it doesn't come to fruition. So Spider-Man 2, right?
Yeah.
They announced the PC version is coming out at New York Comic Con, but alongside that announcement was there will be no new content for the game. We're doing a PC port. Everything that we've released so far on the PS5 will be part of that port, but understand that there will be no more content released for this game. And now that made a lot of people upset, myself included, even as somebody who didn't love Spider-Man 2 as much as I enjoyed the first one or even the Miles Morales game, because last year there was a huge leak from Insomnia Studios that said they had 3 DLC like story packages planned, which makes sense. That's how many they did for the original Spider-Man game that they released. And one of those was a Carnage storyline. And there's a lot of fucking breadcrumbs that are laid down throughout the course of the game that leads to, like, Cletus Cassidy. Like, you fight Cletus Cassidy as a regular person. And then the end of the whole Cletus Cassidy storyline, spoilers for Spider-Man 2, I apologize, but, like, he's named in the first time you go up against him is, like, not even an hour into the game, and he is called Cletus Cassidy, and the game was sold on Venom, even though Venom doesn't show up until like 20 hours into the game, right? Like Venom is the third act reveal in this game, but he is how they marketed Spider-Man 2. Just think about that, right?
Yeah.
So, like, Cletus Cassidy is named so that, like, there's going to be a Carnage thing, because the end of the storyline with him and his cult, right? Like, they did a really good update adaptation of the Cletus Cassidy character where he's not just a crazy serial killer, he's a cult leader as well. And the way that cult storyline wraps up is with him stealing a sample of the symbiote from Oscorp. So, like, it's setting up for there to be Carnage storyline. So all of these people saying that the leak can't be believed and this could be what they had planned all along, doesn't feel that way based on the game. Granted, if they do a third Spider-Man game, maybe it'll take place there. But, like, that was kind of a bummer. And that is the bummer with, like, roadmaps, right? Loading this game up, seeing that in the arcade, there is the Ash vs. Evil Dead cabinet, the Halloween cabinet, and to the left and right of either of them, 2 other cabinets that are covered in sheets. That is RetroRealms telling me we intend to do at least 4 more games. But, like, it depends on how well this game does, right? And honestly,
and then what does that look like? Does that look like DLC for these games, or does that look like a whole new package that you have to buy into? What does that look like?
So I feel it seems like, have you messed with either of the Capcom arcade stadium collections that are out there?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that one, like you buy an arcade and then you separately purchase the games for the arcade. My guess is because they sell Evil Dead alone and they sell Halloween alone, but you still also have to get RetroRealms, the arcade, and then you go in, and if you only have one or the other installed, that game will be on and the other one will be off. And if you go to access the other one, it takes you to the store page to buy the game. So I don't know if they're going to sell them in packs or if, like, 6 months from now, there's going to be, let's say say Child's Play. Let's go with something a little different, as opposed to like Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, Nightmare Before Elm Street. Sorry, I'm an idiot. Like it's probably going to be $25 for that game as a separate package to add to your collection. Or if they release two at the same time, you can buy both of these games at like $50. And you'll get some bonus if you buy like within the first month. Because that's where like Kelly and Lori are available for as part of the game for the first month that it's on sale. So I don't know what they're going to do.
Stuff.
It's just
I'll be very curious to see what they do with the future of it. What other franchises they buy into and stuff like that. Because like if they really lean into the horror stuff and really do the whole thing with like Child's Play, Freddy Krueger, that kind of thing, then that at least kind of reframes the Michael Myers stuff a little bit more for me in an interesting way. I'd question then why they went with Ash, right? But whatever. Like Ash vs. the Evil Dead has always had kind of a weird place in people's like mindset of like whether it's a comedy, whether it's horror, whether it's like whether it's something where like all of the movies are connected or not, or if they're all different universes and all that sort of shit. So like that has got such a weird history that if that ends up being the odd man out instead of the other way around, I wouldn't be too surprised.
So I have just sent you the artwork from the Wikipedia page of the Ash vs. Evil Dead game, and that shows Halloween and Ash vs. Evil Dead illuminated, and then 5 additional cabinets, which says to me that they might have plans for 5 more games in this sort of packaging. I don't know what they're going to look like or anything like that, but that is official artwork from Boss Team Games.
Well, in the middle one that I'm looking at, I think it's going to be 4, because you mentioned 4 in the game itself, and if you look at this, the middle one is actually a RetroRealms game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So like I think 4. We're probably looking at them trying to do 4 if these do well. I will also say that I'm standing here, and for the last 20 minutes we've been talking about this, I've been looking at the Steam page for Ash vs. the Evil Dead that only has like 2 reviews and has been out for 2 days, and one of those reviews is good and one of those reviews is bad. So it feels like there's not many people jumping on this game right now, but we'll see.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people knew about it. I know that everybody that I've talked to is like, I only know about it because you've told me about it.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly it, right? Is like I don't know how these games are going to do if they're just hoping word of mouth is going to be the only thing that gets out there. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Again, I had a blast with them. But I do need to talk about one other game. I've only done a little bit of it, but it's a Say report, and I want to at least plant the seeds before we go a little further. And that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Unleashed, the video game tie-in to last year's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants Mayhem. The Seth Rogen, Evan Goldstein animated film.
Now it's not just that this is a game coming out like a year after the movie, right? Because there is also a TV show that premiered.
Yeah, Tales of the TMNT came out, I believe, in July. Might have been August. That's awesome. The Tales of the TMNT like spin-off TV show is fantastic. As a fan of Ninja Turtles for the entirety of my life, them finally doing a show based on the Tales line, where it is like a Ninja Turtle telling you a story, and then it's up to you to decide whether or not that really happened or not. Like, that's awesome. The first, like, that was broken into 2 arcs. The first was the Night of the Mechazoids, which was Leonardo telling the story of the night that 4, like, mechanical robots that were hunting mutants came to New York City. And the voice acting in that, like, Alana Ubach plays the big bad bishop in it. I'm not his biggest fan, but Pete Davidson is a voice in that. Like, they got some serious, like, names to be in this streaming only Ninja Turtles show. And then the second arc, which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the Pearl, or it's a Flood one. It might be called the Pearl, or it might be called the East River 3. The East River 3 are portrayed. Lee the Eel is Jillian Bell, Mustang Sally is Danny Trejo, and Goldfin is freaking, I can't think of his name now and I'm mad about it, the Justified guy, Timothy Oliphant.
Nice.
Those are the 3 big bads from the fucking second half of Tales of the TMNT. Timothy
Nice.
Oliphant as a mutant goldfish, like, I didn't know it was everything I needed in the world. He is having a blast.
So is the game tying into that
So the
stuff at all, or
game
is
is
it
its
really just
own
into
unique story. A bunch of new mutants have come to the city, which Michelangelo nicknames them Mubies, mutant newbies.
Nice, nice.
The only issue that I have with that is that, like, you fight like Rumblebee, which is a bumblebee with a gas mask and 2 giant boxing gloves for its front hands. And there's like 100 Rumblebees. And you also fight Crabapult, which is very much a reference to Herman the Hermit Crab from the IDW comics, right down to the fact that his shell is a giant trash can. And but you fight thousands of Crabapults. So the opening cinematic is a bunch of mutants like escaping from TCRI. It might be TGRI. I don't remember which one they used. I think it was TCRI. And now there is a large population of mutants in the city, and it is causing unrest between the mutants and the humans because of these mutants are trying to eat all of our food. They're trying to take our jobs, right? We don't want to live next door to these things. So it's a very political game for this kids game that came out. And I wish that I had played more of it. Dale and I did it. It is only coach co-op. It doesn't have an online mode. And co-op mode. And we only played through until we got to the map. There's a lot of tutorial. There's also a lot of loading. And we're playing on PS5, and it's 5-minute load times. And you go, and that's one fight, and then you go to a new room, and it's another 5-minute load time. And
That's a bummer.
It's kind of a bummer, but also you don't get to choose your turtle. It's randomly assigned which turtle you're playing as each time for each room. So I don't know if that's part of the loading thing or not. Very strange. And it's kind of janky. We cleared the second level with all S rank in the fighting stuff, and that felt pretty good. But then we're back at the lab, and it's you could change your outfit, and we could not find where you go to change your outfit. You can work on the skill tree. And the skill tree, it's weird to be oh, do I want to upgrade Raphael? I might not get to play as him in the next mission. I don't know how I want to upgrade my turtles right now. So, there's a lot of, promise there. It looks pretty gorgeous. I will say that. Some of the artwork on display is absolutely beautiful, but it does not control the best. It's a lot of forced camera perspective as you're playing, and that can be hit or miss, right? I can't see my turtle right now because of where you decided to put the camera. That's weird. So there were some growing pains playing it, and I might go back to it with Dale, or I might just do it single player. But it is something I'm playing. The story is very interesting, right? The fact that there are these new mutants on the town, and Bebop and Rocksteady, where I'm at in the game, because Bebop and Rocksteady, if you haven't seen the movie, they end up being allies by the end of the first movie. And they're throwing a march so that people can understand that the mutants are peaceful. We're just going to walk down the street, no weapons, just holding banners and signs, letting people know that we're not the enemy. We can be peaceful. And so then the turtles, as teenagers, they're we kind of want to go to this rally. And it's that question of well, should we? What if it goes bad? Then we could get painted as the enemy. And then they ask Splinter for guidance. And he's do you think this is going to... You need to make that decision onto whether or not you want to go to this rally. And then narratively they choose they could. I'm happy about that. I'm happy it's not some fucking storyline tree of this is what happens if they don't go to the rally, or this is what happens if you do go to the rally. That would have been stupid. But I could also see that coming later on down the line. Also, one of the other reasons we stopped is that the map, you could see a bunch of missions that are available, and all of them have due dates. You have to get this done by, which is interesting because we just talked about Echoes of Wisdom and how you follow the story path because the story is pressing. I shouldn't take 5 hours to go collect all the heart pieces in the world. You're right about that. I will give you that, right? Like there should be some sort of ticking clock. So there is a ticking clock in this game, but in addition to like there being due dates, there are some that it's like this mission will not be available until this date. So like there's a lot that you can see that you can do right now, and it's like it was a little overwhelming. And like let's go play Mario Party instead.
Nice. Yeah.
So
yeah, well, you'll have to fill us in if you play more, because I'm curious to hear how it cleans up, because it sounds like the kind of thing that also a lot of the stuff with like loading and things like that. I wonder how much of that'll get like patched out, if they're going to do any work on it. I don't know how well it's doing. I haven't heard much about it.
I mean, it just came out on Friday, so it's only been out for 2 days as well.
Yeah, but I mean, like advertising wise, I maybe heard about it like 3 weeks ago, and that was it. Like, so I don't know. We'll see how it does, I guess.
So the one thing that I am going to give, the only reason I bought the game is, I will admit this is a full admission. I'm totally in the pocket of Big Turtle. I get that. And it's just a fact of life. They released 4 figures of High School Raphael, High School Michelangelo, Turbo Cammy, who is apparently the big bad of this game, and Krabbapult. And each of those figures came with a download code to unlock a skin in the game. And that is just so fucking smart to me. It's like resurrecting the Skylanders toys to life type of thing. Like High School Mike and Raph came with, you can look like this toy that you have in your hand while you're playing the game. And then Cammy and Krabbapult came with action figure versions of Raph and Michelangelo. And at New York Comic Con, right? Because we didn't really talk about anything that came from New York Comic Con. I mean, have you heard anything significant? The biggest things for me were the Spider-Man 2 information and just a lot of toy stuff. I haven't heard like anything. Well, no, movie-wise, that's not true. We heard that now Marvel films are going to have smaller budgets. That was their big reveal from New York Comic Con. And they blamed it.
I didn't even know Comic-Con happened, to be entirely honest.
Well, New York Comic Con is different. It's not San Diego. It's not as big, but you know, it is a thing that goes on. But that whole reveal about Marvel movies will be cheaper, the list of movies and shows that they cited as to why was very female lead heavy. So that wasn't great. That wasn't a great look for them. Just gonna say it.
Idiots.
Yeah, like you could just say, you know, we're just gonna pare back the budgets because we're not saying the same return on investments that we saw before. You don't need to give examples of why.
Yeah,
but
people forget though that those conventions are business conventions first.
Yes, so
they just turned into fan big things within the last like 20 years because the fans were willing to pay so much money to go to them. But at the end of the day, those have always been business conferences first and foremost.
Yeah, that he's not wrong. So yeah, so that was the big thing that came from it. So, but also from New York Comic Con, we have seen what the Leonardo and Donatello in high school outfits will look like, and then they're doing a dolphin figure, and I don't know what the last one is. So like they're keeping it going, and I have to say, like as a fan of the Marvel's Avengers game, which had a bunch of figures released in the Marvel Legends line that were tie-ins specifically to costumes and outfits that were in the Marvel Avengers game. If they included a code to get that costume in the game, and it was the only way to do it, I think that there may have been a little bit more success for the Marvel's Avengers game. Because people might have bought the figures because it's all collecting is a huge disease, and I'm currently working through that on my own right here, coming to terms with that truth. And it's so weird to me that like they didn't go for that obvious like cross sell there. Yeah. So I'm happy that
game had other problems.
That game did have other problems, yes. But I don't like. But this Ninja Turtles game has only been out for like 2 days. So and loading is the big problem that I have with it, which was kind of the big problem with Marvel's Avengers. But I am forgiving it because I get to play as this Raphael I bought. Yay, Raphael! I don't know. So yeah, so I'll have more information on that after this week. I'm going to give it a little bit more time. But I think that's everything. Anything else you want to make sure we talk about this week, Sejohn?
Not this week.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Say Report. If you want to keep the conversation going, feel free to join us in our Discord. Invites are available wherever we can be found on social media, which right now is Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Even though X, formerly Twitter, is burning down, the Say Report still does have a presence there. So you can get an invitation there as well. Or you can always send an email to thesayreport@gmail.com. We can send an invite back to you, or you can just communicate with us OG, like it's back in 2001. You can just send emails to us by sending emails to thesayreport@gmail.com. And if you want it only for the eyes of myself or Sejohn, please make sure you put our name in the subject line, and our intern, who I assure you does not exist, will distribute them appropriately. That being said, William, it's time to bring us home. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.